Okay. All right, today is June 27th. We will open our Oscoda Township regular board meeting. It is 7:06 PM. We'll start by the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sit closer to it.
Sorry. Okay. Okay, let's start with roll call, please, Josh.
Mr. Cummings?
Here.
Ms. McGuire?
Here.
Mr. Spencer?
Here.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Sutton here. Mr. Westerbarth?
Present.
Ms. Richards?
Here. All right, do we have any agenda additions this evening? Tammy?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay.
There were two items that we had on our last agenda that we were going to postpone to the next meeting. So I think we should at least bring it up, and if we still don't have the information, we can postpone it to a later time.
I'm still waiting for more information. Can you hear me?
Right.
Well, I think for clarity, we should at least bring it up, and we can postpone it again. But
Yep.
we did say we'd bring it up at the next meeting.
Which
that
two
the Hope
topics
grant?
were those, Bill, do you know?
No, it was the storage
Yeah,
units
the,
and,
Selling a
Selling
township property.
property.
yeah.
And then one other item that's informational is the 4th of July parade, the Grand Marshal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming we need to make a vote on that.
Not necessarily. We can discuss it, but,
Usually the informational items we don't discuss.
right,
That's-
well, unless we pull them out
Okay.
to discuss.
All right.
Okay. All right. So are you saying that you want to add to the agenda postponing, or you just want to indicate that we're,
Just the two items that we can reference, so everybody knows that since we said we would postpone it to the next meeting, this
okay,
is the next
so,
meeting.
all right, so you're wanting to put those under other, number 6, storage units,
Yes.
and number 7, and it's postponement, storage unit postponement. And number 7 was, I'm sorry,
Selling property.
Selling property.
selling property. And again, it's postponement. Okay. With those two items, is there a motion to approve those agenda additions?
I'll make a motion that we approve the additions.
Support, Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire and support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Westerbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. We do have a public hearing this evening. We did pass Resolution 2022-18 to hold this truth and taxation hearing. So we need a motion to open that public hearing.
I move that we move into a public hearing on truth and taxation.
Support.
There's a motion by Mr. Cummings and support by Ms. McGuire to open the public hearing. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Westerbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. With that, I would love to invite you to the podium, Nancy.
Okay, good. Yep, it's on. Good evening. The purpose of this hearing is to fulfill the requirements of MCL 211.24E of the General Property Tax Act. A simplified explanation of this law is that a truth and taxation hearing is required if the current levy of operating millage, excluding additions, produces more tax dollars than last year's actual levy, excluding losses. Without this hearing, the operating millage for the township would be reduced from 4.6908 to 4.5444. Many individuals who have read the notice in the paper may have paid particular attention to the phrases proposed increases of mills or proposed additional millage. The public notice is referencing the difference between the reduced millage rate without having this hearing of 4.5444 and the authorized millage rate with the hearing of 4.6908. I have reviewed the previous millage rate documents. The proposed millage rate is the same operating millage rate that the Township of Oscoda has levied for the last 12 years. So in essence, you are not increasing the millage rate from what you levied in the previous 12 years. If the Township Board of Trustees approves the resolution, the levy of millage rate of 4.6908 will result in an additional operating revenue of $47,283. The estimated tax bill on the average would increase by $5.74. For a $100,000 home with a taxable value of $50,000, the added taxes would be $7.32. Do you have any questions?
Okay, so at this time, does the board have any questions? And then we'll ask the public.
You alluded to the raise. Where was there confusion? You sounded like you were specifying that we are not raising it, we are keeping it where it was. Was there some information out there that's saying that we were trying to raise it?
The way that the public notice that's mandated by the state, the verbiage for that notice, when you read it, it implies an increase.
Gotcha.
And they're referencing the increase between the difference between what you can levy without this hearing and what you can levy with the hearing. That's what they're referencing by increase. But in essence, we are not increasing or would not be increasing the millage rate from previous years.
Thank you for that
It would be holding
clarification.
it the same.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess, you can have a seat, but if there's anybody that wants to speak in regard to the public hearing, and then Nancy might need to come back up again. But is there anybody here that, in the public, that wishes to speak? I guess I'll look at the first row over here. Anybody here that has questions, specific questions? Again, this is the public, we're just for this component of the agenda. Any questions there? No? Anything in the middle? Okay, you'll have to come to the podium, please. Just that way the people at home can hear you as well.
Okay, I'm just kind of confused.
Wait till you get up to the podium.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm kind of confused because you're saying that our taxes will go, the amount we pay will go up, correct? But our taxes aren't going up. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
Go to the podium.
I'm sorry, Nancy, I hate to make you do it, but
Okay.
or you can go sit next to Tammy, whichever, as
Okay.
long as you have a microphone. Because then the people that are at home can't hear. So whichever way,
Or me.
right?
Okay.
Perfect.
The millage rate is not increasing. It's the same millage rate that's been levied for the last 12 years. However, because your taxable value probably increased, your taxes will increase on everything. The increase that I was referencing when I said that, for example, on the average it would be $5.74, that would be the increased difference between levying the maximum that the township is authorized to levy or the reduced amount.
Okay, so you're just saying that you guys are keeping it at the same, but because our assessed value has gone up, we're going to be paying more.
Correct. Your taxable values have increased, so
Okay.
you will be paying more. Yes.
So, and I believe I heard that there's going to be another assessment, correct, this year?
The assessment notices were sent out in February, which indicated on those notices the difference between last year's assessment and this year's assessment. It also indicated the difference between last year's taxable value and the 2022 taxable values. So there will not be additional assessments going out for 2022 that affect this year's tax bills. That was all done last February.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions in the middle section? Sorry.
You're too close.
Okay, moving to the far end. Any questions down there? Over there? No? Okay. Great. All set? All right, with that, I make a motion to close the public hearing for the truth and taxation.
Support by Cummings.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Mr. Cummings to close the truth and taxation hearing. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, now moving on to the consent agenda. We have a couple meeting minutes. The first is the regular meeting minutes from June 13th. I did actually just get an opportunity to go through them this afternoon, and there was a couple changes that I noted to motions. I wasn't able to get them to Josh. To make the corrections now, so he just said to do it at the meeting. So with that, I had.
And I
under-
think you skipped public comment.
Oh, I did, I'm sorry. All the public spoke, so I just kind of assumed. Sorry about that. It was not intentional. Okay, moving on to public comment section on, so this is our first public comment on the agenda. This is just for items that are on the agenda this evening. So if there's something that's on the agenda that you would like to make comment on, now is the time to do so. You should have filled out a comment card. Tammy, do we have any comment cards?
I do not have any.
Okay, all right. We have no comment cards. And again, that was not intentional to skip public comment. Moving on then to consent agenda. The first one is the regular meeting minutes. Again, June 13th, I had a couple things. Under additions, I had that Ms. McGuire supported a motion by Mr. Spencer for the agenda additions. And then when you go further down for postpone, it should have been to sell township property, because that was the agenda item. So it should read to sell township property, not real property. And then we also made an agenda addition of the Cedar Lake Improvement Board update under subcommittees. So that should be under additions. And then under consent agenda, I had that Mr. Spencer supported a motion by Mr. Cummings. And those were just that's the only two I noted, or three. Did anybody else have anything?
Just on the addition of the Cedar Lake Improvement Board, the comment was just to inform the public that a meeting took place on June 17th at the Alcona County Building.
Correct.
At
and
4
that's
p.m.
it. Yeah, that's in the meeting minutes. I mean, we actually have it in the meeting minutes, but we added it to the agenda. So it should be under additions as a subject.
The only other thing that I noticed, and I sent this to Josh, and I think he corrected it, but on the special meeting, at the end, he had me adjourning the meeting, but I believe he sent out an email correcting that.
Okay, were there any other comments, though, on the regular meeting minutes? That's the first one. We're good with that? All right, and then next, the special meeting, as Bill indicated, he had already emailed a correction. Any other ones noted in what's in the packet? Okay, hearing none then. Going on to finance, payment of bills, we have the prepaid from June 16th, $10,417. Are there any questions or comments on those or that? Okay. Next is the prepaid from June 21st, $178,677.22. Any questions on those? All right. June 23rd, we have $24,968.80. Any comments or questions on those? All right. And then the check run from June 28th, $20,416.47. Questions or comments there? And then last is the CWSRF checking report. Any comments there? All right. So with that, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Just a same comment, the Cedar Lake Improvement Board is not in the motion, or in the minutes at all, so.
It is. I didn't bring the full agenda, but the one I printed out, it was in.
Read the minutes and it's missing. And again, it was only to inform the public of the July 17th meeting at 4 PM at the Alcona County Building.
Right before the superintendent's report.
That's why.
It's under the subcommittee reports and project updates.
Okay, sorry, wrong area.
Okay,
My
so
fault.
it's there's EIC, and then there's the Cedar Lake Improvement Board.
Sorry, I was looking at it down at the lower end. so
Okay.
I skipped over it.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'd move to approve the consent agenda with the changes requested.
Okay, I'll support that. There's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. Richards to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes,
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards.
Yes, motion carried. All right, moving on to the subcommittee reports and project updates. First, we have the 2022 engineering progress report. Rick?
Good evening. I'll hit the highlights, and then if you have any questions, I can answer any of those. Phase 4, the 2021 DWRF project, we are wrapping that up with Caterman Construction. Row is going down through final restoration and punch list items with the contractor. Working with the residents, getting any final issues taken care of so that we can close that project out. And we did get we're working on the confirmation that all service line connections that had been requested last year, few got added over the winter, those have all been completed now. So that project now is wrapping up. Phase 5, the project that we took bid opening back in April, and Elmer's Crane and Dozier is the contractor working on that. Still waiting on Eagle to resolve the C2R2 funding, so I don't have an official start date on that yet. But we are looking at scheduling a pre-construction meeting the week of July 11th so that we can kind of keep this thing moving along. Tentatively, Elmer's has said that if the funding becomes available and all that, that he will start that project up right around the 1st of August. Phase 3, the one project that has been out there for a couple of years and a lot of interest, obviously, from the residents on Woodland and Oak and Oscoda and Van Etten west of Cedar Lake. We are opening bids on that on Wednesday. Same thing there. We'll have to wait for the C2R2 funding to be resolved so that we can actually get a start date on that. Again, hopefully, even with that one, we're looking hopefully around the 1st of August startup, which will give us enough time as long as materials are available. And that's always an issue right now with contractors. As long as materials are available, we should be able to get those projects started and completed, significantly completed yet this construction season. Sanitary sewer project, that project is going fast and furious now, as is indication with another pay request on the agenda tonight. Contractor has received, I believe, all of his equipment for those improvements, so they are expediting that to try to get that back closer to the original schedule of early fall completion on that. So we're working on that, and we'll be continuing updates on that on a monthly basis. Last project I'll officially talk on is the Phase 3 trail project. Couple of significant things we finally appear to have gotten resolved. We have the easement issue with Consumers Energy Land, Consumers Energy Hydro, Forestry Service, and DNR, I believe, resolved with MDOT. Nancy was able to put together a Township assessor's sales report to the liking of, I'm hoping, to the liking of MDOT. They're reviewing it right now. And with that complete, go through the steps of making an offer through, and that has to be done through the road commission, and then we then settle on the lease amount of the lease dollar amount that each of those organizations gave us a year ago. So through the steps to accept the dollar amount that was agreed to a year ago. And then the final item, struggling for quite some time with the Forestry Service and Fish and Wildlife on our famous rattlesnake. Mr. Palmer, Mr. Lewis, myself, and 5 individuals, a couple from forestry and 3 others from fisheries and wildlife, had a conference call or a Teams meeting now 2 weeks ago. I think we got through all of the needed mitigation items for maintenance and construction and all of that. They're finalizing their biological opinion, and all indications are it's on schedule to clear public notice by July 21st. If that's the case, then we should be able to get this project advertised through MDOT near middle to end of August, bid opening by the end of September, and an award and start of construction November 1st of this year. So, any questions on any of those items or anything else on my report?
Do you have any board members have any questions for Rick?
Thanks, Rick.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Moving on then to the superintendent's report. First on the agenda is the seasonal and volunteer employee wage increase.
Okay, your packet contains the current wages for seasonal employees and our volunteer firefighters. The DPW currently employs 3 seasonal workers. In a normal year, employs 11 seasonal workers. Old Orchard Park currently employs 18 as of today. They just had a few more quit. And a normal year employs 24 seasonal workers. Currently, the township's wages are non-competitive, and seasonal employment at places such as the DNR have been increased to $15 per hour. On the volunteer firefighter side of wages, current wages are listed below for fire runs. Volunteer firefighters drive their personal vehicles to fires, and with the current rising cost of fuel, I would like to request an increase in pay as a critical step to ease their cost to continue protecting our homes and businesses in our community. So that would be two actions on this item.
Okay. So are you proposing that all seasonal wage employees be bumped up to 15 or at specific requirements like, I don't want to use the word skill set, but able to, like mowing, the larger equipment and stuff, or is it anybody doing anything?
It would be everything, because we have people quitting left and right for jobs that make more money.
Okay.
And this would just be seasonal employees, right?
Yes, yes.
Did the seasonal employees get a raise the last time the rest of the employees got a raise?
Yes.
So how was that going to affect the morale of the people that have been here for a long time, that are in positions for the rest of the township, when you're giving the seasonal people another raise, but not them?
Well, was it we did a 20, was it 20%? What was our?
15.
15, so it was 15% of $8 and?
I think it was $9.
$9,
yeah.
okay.
Yep.
So then that bumped them up to
11:30.
11.30?
Yeah.
Okay. So then this would be like a $4 an hour.
In 19, it was $9.64.
Okay.
So, and from what I'm looking at here, our lowest paid seasonal currently makes $11.30.
For example, the deputy treasurer would only be making $1.25 more than a seasonal person,
But they
with a lot more
also,
responsibility.
they also don't have benefits, and it's for 4 or 5 months out of the year.
But they also claim unemployment for the rest of the year.
Not everybody. Just saying.
Right. I know we have lost, I believe that the airport authority has paid more this season too, so we've
We
for sure
lost one
lost
of-
one person.
Yep.
And, right. Tough times. Any other comments? Questions?
I guess as far as the firemen, the volunteer firemen, do you have a recommendation, Tammy?
I do not. I did search for different area wages, and a lot of even their volunteer firefighters have an hourly wage. And some of them are actually based on a point system, which we do not have. And the other numbers, you would not, I was surprised to see that ours are actually higher than some places.
My thought on the firemen, since we're looking for, to help cover the cost of fuel, with fuel being so high, that instead of changing their wage, which would mean all the firemen would get that increase, but not all the firemen attend every fire or call. So my thought was to have like a fuel surcharge, where for every time they go on a run, they would get a separate check for $20 or $25 or whatever the board would think. And then that would only go to the firemen that go on the calls. So the wages would stay the same, but they would get that extra money for driving their vehicles to and from the fire to cover the cost of the fuel.
They only get paid if they go to the call.
It's a per run.
They get paid for meetings also, though.
Right.
Yep.
But I think that might be a different,
And training, I believe.
yes.
Is it the same pay for going, I mean, I assume it wouldn't be the same pay for going out on a call as it would be to go to a meeting.
No, I think it's a different rate for the meetings.
I think so.
I don't know, Joshua should be able to answer that, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you,
Theirs
if
is
you,
just a set rate they receive.
For everything? So if they're just
One
going to a
separate.
meeting, it's the same rate as it is to go out for a fire call?
Yeah, it's not, they're not paid hazard pay.
Yeah,
They're not paid hazard pay, they're paid an hourly rate.
Right.
the scale that's in the packet, it shows a different rate for the fire meetings and for fire runs. They're different scale. It's on page 33.
Broke. Is it
I
a
like
different rate
I
or
like
is it
your
the
idea,
same?
Bill.
And the thing of it is, if you do it as a fuel surcharge, then they get that as a separate check. They don't have to pay tax on that. If you add it onto their wages, now they get taxed on that money, so they're not really getting all the money to put the fuel in their vehicles.
It's a good point, I like it.
And they do already keep track of who attends each run anyways, so you would already have a list created.
Great.
Yeah,
That makes
that
sense.
was just my thought on
No, I like that.
how to handle it.
It's a
I think
good
it's a
thought.
thought.
Just,
Yeah, it
Yeah,
looks like it's maybe $5 an hour when you look at the difference between a run and, oh, I'm looking at 2019. I guess I should look at the appropriate year. Fireman is $34 for a meeting, $34.30, I'm just going to round it up, and $41 for a fire call.
yes.
Okay.
What's the maximum, or what's the average number of miles they travel to one of these? Do we have that information?
I mean, how big is our township?
Yeah.
I mean, how
Right,
many
but I
miles?
mean, but if you're looking at an average, I mean,
Yeah.
if we're talking about bumping up and giving them like almost a stipend or something for
Right.
fuel, what are we gonna base that on? Well, the
Yeah.
only thing I can think of is what's the average mileage to the place.
And who's going to keep track of that?
So if they have, I mean, if it's 50 miles, well, then, $5 probably wouldn't be enough. But if they're traveling an average of 4 miles, then, maybe a 20 spot would do it.
Can we put together some different scenarios, I guess, and come back to this, the firemen, come back to that part at the next meeting, but deal with the seasonal workers this evening? Because it seems like there's a couple different approaches we can look at, and then maybe assess what financially that would cost us in the long run. And what's the best method?
Sure.
Does that sound reasonable? Okay.
Well, I'd make a motion to postpone the fireman's pay scale discussion until the next regularly scheduled board meeting.
Okay. I would support that. There's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. Richards, to postpone the volunteer fire employee wage increase until the next meeting, just to gather more information and scenarios. Roll call, please. Or are you okay with me adding that to the?
Sounded good to me.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, then going back to the seasonal employee wage, is there a thought there? I mean, we've had a little bit of discussion, and then we jumped over to fire.
Well, I know the DPW is having a problem getting help.
And I think Old Orchard Park is as well.
Yes.
Can you confirm
Al,
or
would you like
deny
to come up
that?
and comment on that?
You want to, yeah.
Good evening.
Hi.
We usually run about 24 to 29 people. I'm down to 18 now. And 4 of them have informed me they left because they found higher paying jobs. That simple. Okay, I mean, how do you argue that? So we're down to 18 people for 3 shifts, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It's tough. It's tough. We have to adjust hours. The store can't open when we want it to. It has to open later so we can stay open later and work people on weekends when we get the most of a crowd. However, 4th of July is quickly approaching and we are down to 18 people. So we're going to have to pay some overtime to people to cover some shifts. I don't want to do it, but we kind of have to. We're not a business that you can just close the office and say, well, there's nobody that can work it today. We'll come back later. You know, we always have to have somebody on staff. And when you have the type of people that come to when you have the amount of people that come to the park, something has to be approached that way so we can take care of, our guests that come here. They expect a level of service and I'm going to provide it best I can. So people are understanding though, sometimes they do not like that the store isn't open or they can't get what they need or this hasn't been cleaned yet or this hasn't been mowed yet, but I kind of explain it to them why we're in the predicament and I get it, I understand it.
Have any of them offered some part-time hours to help out?
I have asked, yes.
Yeah,
I have asked. I said, you know what, beneficial.
Especially the seasonals.
If you would work for me for a little bit, I said I could make some more wood out there to sell.
Have we ever done like a host?
I have.
There?
I've tried volunteers. People will say they volunteer. Unfortunately, I need a volunteer usually on the weekends or on a holiday. And nobody wants to volunteer on a weekend or a holiday.
Probably not coming up to
I'm
camp
sorry.
to volunteer.
They just don't. We do have, this year, we have 3 seasonal people that noticed we were down, so they said, you know what, we'll step up, and they've actually been really, really good. So we're trying to push that a little bit more. We need more adults. We need more kids. We need people that work in the store to serve wood, ice cream, things like that. It seems like you can work at McDonald's for $18 an hour, or Coletta for $15 an hour, the airport, or seems like a lot of people are doing the $15 an hour thing. We had called a girl and we thought she was interested and she just found a job for 15. So I'm like, well, just give us a little bit. Maybe we can.
Have you already started to acquire any overtime? Or not yet?
Yes, but not a lot.
Okay.
Not a lot. But we will this week. I've got an interview tomorrow, and my maintenance supervisor's calling 2 tomorrow to set up interviews. So I'm hoping we can get at least 3 people to come kick in. Now, when you just start the 4th of July, I mean, it's not like I can just expect you to come, so we're gonna have to have some training
Right.
time there, but we're trying, we're doing the best we can.
Would it be helpful if we made a decision tonight and you could tell them they'd make $15 an hour?
It would be. It would be.
On the side of overtime, we currently have DPW full-time employees getting a lot of overtime just to keep the parks clean on the weekends. We have the gal that does the flowers. She has no one to replace her, so she's got to be there all the time to water flowers. I know one of the guys, Alan, has worked almost every single weekend, and now they're starting to rotate out. I even volunteered to help clean.
Yeah.
Because everybody's working, and they're working a lot, especially DPW with just 3 employees.
Right. Well, I almost wonder if we're to the part where we, for cleaning bathrooms and so on, that it wouldn't be better to contract out like to a cleaning company. I think it's too late for this season, but I mean, I guess just something to maybe look towards to see what the cost difference would be if we, had a set schedule with somebody and they came in, and then it's their.
You might have the same problem we've got now, where they don't have enough people.
It might, but yeah. But then we'd have set times during the day that they were for sure coming, and
But then we have a contract. You will
Yeah.
do it.
in the bathrooms, you could say whatever in the morning, afternoon, I mean, even into the evening, where our shifts all end at 3:30 or 4 o'clock. And our bathrooms stay open till 8 sometimes, so, just a thought, but.
I think it's just, we're in competition for help, and this first came to my attention when I saw that the DNR was, they were looking for 420 positions, and they would bump their pay up to $15 an hour. Trying to get people to work through the state parks. They were short 400 and some people, so it's just a competition. I mean, Al's trying to get people, Bill Hamlin's trying to get people, and if you can't offer what the going rate is, like Al said, he's had people leave already this season because they could get it. He probably went to work for the DNR, for God's sake.
Well, summer just started. Our summer season's just starting to kick in, and we are less than we've ever been.
Right.
And that hurts. But we still have mowing, we still have other parks to mow, we still have other bathrooms to clean, other places we do foot site, we take care of that. We're down to 1 guy on this shift because I gotta work everybody this weekend on second right now. So
Why
he's
don't we
trying to take
contract-
care of all this different stuff.
Could we not contract the mowing out again like we did before?
That seemed to work. I've got some reservations I would probably discuss with Tammy about that, but that seemed to work.
Sounds like we're in a wage war. I mean, because even if we raise our wages now, there's nothing to stop McDonald's and DNR and all those other entities that want those employees from raising their wages again. So how many times
That's correct. That's true. There's a limit.
stuck between a rock and a hard place.
I wonder what DNR's success rate has been since they've raised their the wage. Curious to see if it's helped.
They got a couple people from Old Orchard Park.
We raised our rates this year to 11.30. I got a few more, but I didn't get as many as I thought we may. Early, 5, 6, 7 years ago, we used to get a stack of, and now I barely get 5 or 6 or 7 maybe. And of all those I call, 3 maybe answer and 1 maybe works out. So it's tough. I mean, I put ads in all the schools, Alcona, Hale, Tawas, and Oscoda, and I got a few kids, but not very many. I mean, I'm surprised at all the kids that I would think would want a job that I haven't heard.
Al, I've gone to different camping places and Michigan and in Florida, and some of the people will work for the park and then they get their camping for free or a minimal rate. Is that something that we could entertain? No. Okay, just asking.
Have you had lots
It's
of?
not, we're government agency. We're audited specifically for a certain way to run the businesses a certain way, does that make sense? And you start trading services for services, you kind of run into a gray area I don't want to run into, so
Yep.
I won't do that.
I don't know that we'd clear that with consumers and FERC.
Right.
Right.
I mean, there's probably a few agencies who probably wouldn't agree with that, but it was an idea. I mean, I know they have, I see other campgrounds are private that kind of offer those kind of services, but I don't think we could do that.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have employees that are asking for overtime, and you're allowing it now because you have the time needed, that you need someone to be there?
They
Or are
don't
you
ask
trying
for
to
it.
shy away from that? And I'm just asking because, I mean, in my brain, if I've got two employees and both of them make $10 an hour, and one of them quits, and the other guy's gonna make up for that time and get time and a half, well, that person would be making 15, which kind of would even out over the course of time.
Yeah, they don't ask for it, but we have a great staff that work at the park, and anytime I need someone to help out and stay over and maybe go, because I try to cross-train everybody in all the different departments, just about everybody's willing to do it and say, yeah, I'll do it. I'll go take over that shift, or I'll go do that, or.
So is that what's been keeping you rolling for the past month or so?
Yes, it has been, yes.
I mean, I'd almost rather be willing to, or would rather
We
see the
share
people
in
that,
between departments.
I'd almost rather see the folks that want the overtime, that want to be there and do the job well, get that overtime, instead of trying to raise the wages and bring a bunch more people in that may or may not really want to be there.
You
and may or
always
may
take
not.
care of your own. You always take care of what you
Yeah.
have. And I've always been a big believer to take care of the people that I have working for me, because they are the people that.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
You depend on them. I depend on them.
They would still have, I mean, if
it
we
would
raise
be-
it to 15, they would still have the opportunity to get overtime here and there, but I think it'd be hard to count on somebody's ability to do overtime.
I agree.
Every
I
week.
know
mean,
it's
Al's
difficult,
gotta-
but-
They gotta be able to schedule people on a regular basis, and just because if we did raise it to 15, that doesn't guarantee that we're gonna
Yeah.
get a slew of applications. I mean, I would think by now, for the most part, people have their jobs for for the summer employment, but who knows? Maybe we could recruit a few, but, and then maybe we won't lose a couple more, so, I don't know. But
Al, so of the people that you've lost, were they people that were just recently hired this year? Or, okay, so let's call them the core team, hasn't left
Right,
yet?
right.
Okay. So, all right, so that's good. I mean, that's better than the worst that it could have been. So now I guess my question here is, we talk about Old Orchard, and we've talked about Old Orchard for years, and we acknowledge that it is truly a profit center within this government agency. And, I can tell you, Al, as you remember, when I first met you on my tour with Mr. Stalker, coming to Old Orchard, commenting that, we as a board should probably do more for the folks that work at Old Orchard than has generally been done. And even in the conversation here tonight on this topic, it's all extremely conservative and frankly borders on penny pinching, not on fiscal responsibility. Because what we're not doing is we're not providing a solution in the order of magnitude to the problem and the risk that you're describing to this board. So, my motion here would be that we provide a $16 an hour rate for the folks at Old Orchard, not 15. Simply because I, number one, believe that Old Orchard should have more than what they have had, and also to give that incentive to people that are currently working there. I also think that in general, the hourly rates at Old Orchard should have been higher for some time. I'm just saying that I don't think that that's right, the way we have done it. And now in face of this problem, I don't see us responding appropriately.
Do you have that in the budget to be able to raise it to 16? Don't know? Well, that's not a no,
Possibly.
and therefore I support Mr.
Possibly.
Cummings.
Are you indicating it would just be we're talking seasonal employees across the board, we're not just specifically
include
discussing.
It is correct. We're talking
Include
seasonal
DPW?
employees here. That's correct.
So,
What?
Include DPW.
Who's talking?
Well, you had indicated, you just talked about Old Orchard, but we're talking about seasonal employees as a whole for the township. And we have seasonal employees that work other than just Old Orchard Park. So
I
guess
would
put
include
them- okay.
DPW with that.
Any seasonal, I think it just needs to be clarified to any seasonal employees.
Seasonal employees is fine.
I would support that motion.
So how does that affect the full-time people, though, that have been that are still the core people? And when you're getting people that are getting a raise and they're not, that's not directed at you, Al, that's to the
Well, we
board.
just gave a raise, and we also, the full-time people get benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. It's not an equal. I actually don't even understand the argument in that.
I understand the
context.
argument, but. you know,
I do, because there's a lot more responsibility for the full-time people. And the seasonal people got a raise also last time.
They're seasonal for a reason, and the other folks are full-time for a reason. And their compensation package is better than what the seasonal people will get anywhere in this township.
Okay, well, I believe there's a
Okay.
motion and support. There's a motion by Mr. Cummings with clarification that it is an increase for all seasonal employees to $16 an hour. And there was support by Mr. Palmer, is that correct?
Yes,
Phil? Okay.
yes.
And you support the seasonal do we have any other classifications, Tammy or Josh, that handle it?
No.
So it's just seasonal or,
Just
and
our
it- and
Just
that's across
seasonal.
the board?
Thanks,
to
Al.
any? Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Well, just one more comment. I guess I would like to see, instead of, we went ahead and give a 15% raise last time across the board, and I know we had discussions about creating a pay scale, which is what we used to have, and maybe that pay scale should have just been researched a little better to reflect the changes that are happening. I would like to still see us postpone this and look at our entire pay scale for everybody across the board to see where we're at, so that this doesn't keep happening every 6 months or next year, where you're just randomly selecting a group of people and giving them a raise. Just my thought.
Okay. Any other discussion before we take roll call? All right, roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
No.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes. I'm voting yes, but then I would like us to look at a wage study for employees
That's fine.
as a whole.
I can get costs for that
Okay.
and then bring it back.
Yes. All right, moving on to pump station replacement project, pay request number 7.
Okay, your packet contains the 7th pay request and the pump station replacement project in the amount of $889,169.76, leaving a total of $3,459,817.25 remaining for this project. I would ask that the board consider approving the 7th pay request from RCL Construction in the amount of $889,169.76 to be paid from the CW SRF checking after reimbursement is requested and deposited into the township's account.
Okay, are there any questions on this?
It's a whopper.
Yeah.
Pretty
It's a little bit of a, thank goodness we're getting the money.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so any questions? Is there a motion?
I'd move to approve the payment to RCL Construction in the amount of $889,169.76 to be paid out of the CW SRF checking when funds become available.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. McGuire to approve project pay request number 7. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the Northern Assessing 2022 contract extension. Tammy.
Your packet contains a potential extension of our current assessor's contract. This extension would provide the township with assessing services until August 31st, 2022, extending her contract for an additional 2 months. I would ask that the board approve the assessor's contract extension for the additional 2 months. With the exception, I spoke with the township attorney, it was close to 5 o'clock today, and under Nancy's contract extension, she would like to add something under section 10, which would read, consultants shall provide the services and the services provided in this contract, and be subordinate to the township supervisor, who is the chief assessing officer pursuant to MCL 42.11A, which is just a formality. So,
Was it in the last contract?
no, and this is Lisa's first go-around with an extension for Nancy, because we've been using the same, and Lisa just happened to see it today, and she said that that little addition is not, like, it's not a major thing, but is something that should be added to every assessing contract going forward.
But what I don't understand about the addition is that we have a resolution that transfers that role to the superintendent. So why does that
No, supervisor.
become subordinate to the supervisor? I don't understand.
Because in the charter, the township supervisor is the chief assessing officer, and that cannot be taken.
I see, so that, of course, hasn't been transferred to you.
Right.
I see. I got it now, I see.
Yes.
Okay, thank
So
you.
has any supervisor before the one that's currently seated served that role?
It's in the charter, so,
Whether they actively did or
no,
not.
I
It's in
don't
the
believe
Willy
every-
Wonka book of whatever. I
have been
mean,
back in the
if
early
it
days.
hasn't been, if it hasn't been something that's been trained or decided, I guess I'm not comfortable knowing what that actually puts me liable for or not liable for, to be quite honest. So
Yeah, I didn't
I'm
think-
not comfortable with that language until I understand it, because it's never been in a contract before.
well, because she's our only assessor for,
Well, that's all fine and well, but if she's gone in August and there's no longer an assessor, and then that puts the supervisor in a role that I'm not aware that I'm supposed to be in, and it opens me up for something, I'm not comfortable with
in
that
there.
until I understand it, so.
you know what's in there, right?
Can't blame you.
You do know what's in there, correct? Like, actually, they have you as, you could, the secretary, isn't that for?
What?
Could,
Uh-huh.
Just, you have to
You
go to
might
a
as well just
microphone,
stay
it
there,
doesn't matter which
Nancy.
one.
Okay. The supervisor serves in the capacity of the secretary of the board review, provided they are available. However, the statute does allow for, in the absence of the supervisor, for the board of review to appoint one of their own members to serve as a secretary. For as long as I recall, in Oscoda, for as many years as I've been the assessor, and prior to that, when I was here as early as '79, the supervisor never served in the capacity of secretary for the board of review. They always appointed their own.
The Board of Review always.
The board of
appointed
review
their own.
always appointed their own secretary.
Can we approve the contract without that in there?
Yes, she just wanted us to do it correctly, that's all. And I do have I can email you the copy of the Township Act.
That's fine, but again, I'm not comfortable with it being added in there, because until I understand what it exactly means.
well, I know that in years past, supervisors used to be the assessor for a lot of townships. And then when the State Tax Commission started raising the requirements for assessing, a lot of the supervisors said, I'm not going for that training or that education, so they would drop out. So now there's very few supervisors that are actually the assessors in most Michigan townships because of the requirements the state tax, isn't that correct, Nancy? The State Tax Commission put these requirements on assessors.
Correct. They required, beginning in 1980, one, that a supervisors had to have a certification in order to do assessing. At that point in time, a fair number of the supervisors, they were given 1 year to receive the certification. They did not, and a fair number of them gave up that portion, and the townships hired outside counsel. I know that there is still verbiage in the General Property Tax Act relative to that. I have often questioned whether or not that is one of those antiquated laws like spitting on the sidewalk that was just never corrected. Because you do have, in order to sign that role, you have to have a certain level of certification that's been designated to you or that you've acquired through the State Tax Commission. So in my absence, the supervisor would not be able to sign that role anyhow.
So, Tammy, could you read what that was again that she wanted to add? I didn't hear all of that.
You want just
Just,
the language?
just the
that-
language that she wanted to add.
All right, so. Going down there. All right. The consultant shall provide the services provided in this contract and subordinate to the township supervisor, who is the chief assessing officer pursuant to MCL 42.11A.
It's state statute.
It's not saying that Ann would have to do anything, it just states that she is the chief assessing officer, and Nancy would have to answer to her. That's all that is.
I'm not in agreement with adding it in there, so.
It is, she did say it was okay to move forward without it, if the board opted to not put that in.
Well, I would like to do that. So I make a motion that we approve the contract as presented in our application, or in our board packet.
Support.
And I would just like to pass along a huge thank you to Ms. Schweikert for continuing to help us out as a township in extending her contract with us.
Can we just
Thank
make
you.
it December 31st?
Yeah, yeah, just quit with the small extensions and go to December.
And just work a couple days a
Okay.
week? We already
Summer's
had that
going to be over
discussion.
very quick, Nancy.
All right.
So just go into fall.
Okay, so there's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Ms. McGuire, along with, our continued thank you from Mr. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. And then I guess I just want to ask, are we still posting? I know I had sent you some suggestions that were given to me from the Oscoda Township assessor.
So Melinda and I got together with Nancy. Nancy provided me with a list of level 3 and 4 assessors. We sent out 535 RFPs to those assessors, and we have heard back from 3
And when did we send those out?
a few weeks ago.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, moving on, next on the agenda is row engineering invoices.
All right, your packet contains the following listed invoices from Row Engineering for services rendered. These invoices require township board approval.
Okay, and I printed these out. It's the only thing I did print, Steve, so that I would have them. Okay, all right, so the first invoice.
Forrest thanks you.
Yes, the forest thanks me. Invoice number 103552 for the Iosco Exploration Trail in the amount of $2,230. Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved to be paid from account 101-751-880-572.
Support, Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Spencer to approve invoice 103552. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to invoice 103667, again for the Iasco Exploration Trail. That amount is $3,425. Is there a motion to approve that?
I have a question. Just for my own knowledge, the one is coming out of 101,751, and the next one's coming out of 101,299. What's the difference?
That is my mistake. It should be as-needed services, so I apologize. For 103667 should be as-needed, which is Township Board meetings and other miscellaneous items.
So it should be 101,
299, the fund number is correct, but
Okay.
instead of being Iasco Exploration Trail, it should have been as-needed services.
oh, as needed, gotcha. All right.
Oh, okay.
I apologize.
Which is on the invoice, just not in your report, and I was
Right,
reading from your
right.
report. Gotcha. So that's my fault, because I was reading from the report, not the invoice. I'll take
I'll
responsibility.
make a motion to approve row invoice number 103667 in the amount of $3,425 to be paid from Fund 101-299-801.000.
Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Westerbarth to approve invoice 103667. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to invoice 103798, wastewater pump station improvements, CWSRF, in the amount of $35,031.25.
I'll make a motion, we approve that to come out of the CWSRF checking.
Okay, is there support?
Support, Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Spencer to approve invoice 103798. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. And the last invoice is invoice 103799 for the water system project 2023 from the DWRF, $1,007.50. Is there a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion to approve invoice number 103799 for the water system project to be $1,007.50 to be paid out of the DWRF checking.
Support.
Okay. There's a motion by Mr. Westerbarth and support by Mr. Palmer to approve invoice 103799. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Richards,
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the Clover Pro purchase request.
In March of 2021, Old Orchard Park Camp Store requested the Clover Pro system to have in place before the season began. However, with the shortage of computer chips, the system was unavailable at that time. The Clover Pro system we are requesting works with the current system and has features beneficial to maintain and track store inventory more efficiently, point-of-sale features, barcode scanner, as well as a dashboard feature for our treasurer to see transactions from her desktop. While this system is replacing the antiquated system and registers in the park store, it also integrates the Clover system already in place in the park office. As contactless payments are becoming the norm, the system will offer a touchless payment method to our guests never before offered here at the park. I would ask that the board approve the Clover Pro purchase in the amount of $2,274.85 to be paid from 509-000-979.000.
Okay, do we have any questions? I see that I thought you guys got up and left, but you came back? All right. Do you have any questions for?
Yeah, I do,
I
actually.
believe Tara's dying to come up to the podium.
Tammy, what line item is that, 979? Equipment? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Tara, I do have a question.
Yes.
So what is the system that was put in, I think, what would have been a year or 2 years ago? Was it 2 years ago? that when we were putting in the Wi-Fi system, was it Clover? that we were
was
putting-
Clover.
It was Clover. Okay, got it.
So this will just expand on it.
Right.
And it has an inventory app, so she'll be able to do it computerly instead of handwrite like she does every year.
Right.
Do you guys already have all
well-
your, oh, I'm sorry.
Well, actually, and more to the point, it's not that you wouldn't have to do some manual inventory at some point during the year, at the end or the beginning, but it also, it being that you can put in exactly how much you started with, you can start to see where.
Exactly.
Where shoplifting is coming in.
Exactly.
And theft. So, which you've never really been able to monitor because you didn't have a system to help you, help support that point. So that's
Right.
good. That's
Right.
great. Okay. Yeah, okay, good. So that's good. So over to you.
I was just going to ask if the, if you guys already have your procedures down on how you're going to scan in the inventory, scan out the inventory, who's authorized, who's not. Have you guys already set all that up? Good to go? Awesome. So you guys, so it started out with the Clover credit card processing, is that what happened? And now you're going with the whole register system?
We started with handheld devices, then the office expanded to a register, and then we're expanding Judy to the whole system.
So you're just adding to what you already had?
Yeah.
Yes.
Plus a couple of modules that are going to make things easier. Do those handhelds scan the inventory and all that? If you're,
I don't believe the handheld scan, we have to purchase a separate scanner.
is that included in the price?
It is included in the price.
Excellent.
The handhelds were originally meant for going from site to site and checking people in. That was what that was originally
Exact-
meant
yep.
for.
Oh, how's that working out?
Good.
Good. Yeah. It sounds awesome. You know, people get to, you just hang out at the campsite, you walk up, take that credit card now.
That's right.
Contactless
Exactly.
payment, sir? Or madam? I would move to approve.
I think there might be
Sorry.
more
Yeah,
questions.
go ahead, Bill.
I just wanted, you mentioned in here that with this system, it'll be able to go directly to the treasurer's office?
Yeah, Jamie will have a way on the Clover dashboard, which I looked at. It shows the complete inventory, all cash sales, all credit card sales.
No, that'll go directly to your office.
Yeah, it'll go directly to the office, and what I was talking to Al about today, always is my concern about the time that's involved with those guys having to go from their Z-tape from the cash register to their spreading it out on a piece of paper and then putting on another piece of paper and then turning all that into me to then hand enter into the computer. I know you guys have heard me talk about this for probably at least 10 years, I'm sure. So I called BSNA Software today to see if we would be able to export from Clover into, right directly into our cash receipting system, so nobody has to touch it, no hands. It'll be great. BSNA walked me through, they have a generic process, and hopefully I can give that format to Clover, and we would maybe be able to get that ball rolling. So I'm waiting for Jennifer to get back to me, and hopefully we can maybe start that process in the fall when it slows down, and we can get our hands on it and be ready for next year.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
One more. Do you guys do you have over $1 million in inventory in a year? No? So you guys aren't required to do a yearly, an annual inventory? You are required to do one.
Yeah.
Well, they have to do it anyway, because remember, a lot of it's, what's the word? It goes away. It expires. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, whatever that word is.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no shelf life.
Yep.
Right on. All right, well, I'll go ahead and make the motion then to approve the purchase of the Clover Station Duo handheld scanner cash drawer and the monthly fee for the cash sales and inventory app of $2,274.85 from 509-000-979.000.
Support, Sutton.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Sutton to approve the purchase as requested. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Wushtabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. All right, thanks. I think that's it on you on the agenda. You're welcome to hang out or take off. It's up to you. Okay, moving on to resolutions. We have resolution number 2022-19 regarding the millage rate. So we obviously had a a special public hearing in regard to this with questions. Do we have additional comments, or are we ready to pass it?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2022-19 regarding millage rate.
Support?
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire and support by Mr. Wusterbarth to approve Resolution 2022-19. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And thanks for being here for that as well. We now have Resolution number 2022-20, corrected poverty exemption resolution. And if you could come to the podium for that, or over by Tammy, whichever way you want to, whichever way is easier. I was going to say that might be, yeah, I'm not going to make any comments.
Okay. July of 2021, the Board of Trustees revised the Township's poverty exemption guidelines pursuant to Public Act 253 of 2020, which made several changes to the poverty exemption statute that impacted how local units, assessors, and board reviews handled the exemption starting with the 2021 tax year. In June of '22, the State Tax Commission sent a reminder to the local assessors concerning the poverty exemption guidelines. According to the email, one of the common mistakes noticed in the AMAR reviews was not allowing the property owner to own additional property. Additional property may, however, be added to the asset test portion of the guidelines. Last year, when we were in the process of reviewing our guidelines, I was not aware of the State Tax Commission's opinion in regards to an applicant owning property in addition to the residence for which they were requesting an exemption. I've attached for your review a copy of the original poverty exemption income guidelines and asset test. The highlighted section on page 2 is the verbiage which should be removed. I'm requesting the Board of Trustees to approve the revised documents.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Nancy?
I only have one question. This relates to this resolution and the previous one. At the end, both of them say moved by Mr. Sutton, supported by Mr. Sutton.
No,
I don't know why that's in there, but,
the module, I just have those names in there when I put it together as our board names.
so those will be changed?
Right,
Yes.
so, yeah.
Okay.
I guess I'd just make a suggestion that we, until we adopt something, be it meeting minutes or resolutions, that we just have draft as
I
a
agree.
watermark across it, just so that,
We know that.
just so that we know that.
Yeah, otherwise this conveys a completed document. Otherwise, it conveys a completed document.
Right. So right now it's in draft, I mean, it comes to us in draft format until we adopt it, then it's set. So if there's any changes, then it's just an easy way to know that it's a draft format.
I would make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-20 as it relates to the poverty exemption income guidelines as presented.
Support by Cummings.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Palmer and support by Mr. Cummings to approve with the change that Nancy suggested. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, thank you.
Then I believe we would need to just make a motion to rescind the 2021-25 poverty exemption income.
That should have been written into the resolution, actually.
Correct.
Should have been in the resolution to
Right.
rescind it at the same time.
Yes. Should have been part of the resolution. Can we amend it to include, yep.
No, new motion.
Uh,
New motion?
You'd have to rescind the motion and go over, start over again.
Right. Josh had just indicated we needed to still rescind the other one, but that should have been in the resolution to rescind the previous one. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't just automatically supersede.
No.
No, because it still shows on the books then.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's-
unless you cancel that resolution.
Has to
Exactly.
officially be rescinded.
Yeah, MTA said you just need to rescind that motion with approval of that new one.
but not actual verbiage in there. They just motioned to rescind that one. So the one going forward, 2022.
Okay.
Oh, so we're gonna take the old one out completely instead of
Right,
leaving them
yeah,
both on the
because I
books?
actually
Take it out.
called them
Oh,
because
yeah.
we had a question as to how that would happen, and they said we have to rescind this one by motion, and then the other one is approved, and going forward, this one will be.
What's the previous number?
2021-15, or 25, sorry.
2021-25.
That
You
is the
don't-
one that we need to
You don't take it out of the
rescind?
books. You leave it there because it's
Right.
part of the
Yeah.
hearing.
It's just not
Okay,
active.
All right.
The rescind is in this meeting.
It's not
Right.
active, yeah.
So where, so we need to add,
So you just need a motion to
A
rescind?
motion to
A
rescind.
separate motion now.
Well, I make a motion to rescind resolution number 2021-25.
Support by Cummings.
I'm sorry, was that 2021-25?
Yes. It's on page 76 in the packet.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Spencer and support by Mr. Cummings to rescind Resolution 2021-25. Roll call, please.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wushterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes,
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. All right, now moving on to other. We have first on, is it Straley? Sorry,
Straley.
Straley, Lamp, and, I don't know,
Chris,
Krenz, whatever, PC
Krensley.
invoice.
Okay, so this invoice was presented at last board meeting, and needed to come back with, I understand that the question was if it was to be paid out of the clerk's and treasurer's budget. Jamie sent out an email after the board meeting. I checked the minutes and nowhere could we find, the only thing we could find was that the motion was made to approve, to use them for training and CPA services, but there was nothing in the motion regarding where that was to come out of or whose budget.
It was just an hourly rate that was approved.
Right,
And it didn't have a not to exceed as well, correct?
right.
I have one other question, because when we originally hired this firm, it was at $85 an hour, and they're billing at $87.50.
Fuel surcharge? Just kidding. Could pass that up. But you're correct. We did approve $85 an hour.
I don't know, did you catch that on the other invoices at all, Josh?
Yeah, and I believe that's where, that's why there's a discount listed on the invoice at the bottom there.
Oh, okay, and that takes that into account?
Yes.
The $14.50?
Yeah, because I asked him why they were charging the difference, and then he took that difference plus the additional up to that amount.
You're talking about right here?
Yeah, he was billing for this,
I see the discount of $14.50.
and then if you go down,
But with the discount, it brings it down to $93.42 an hour.
yeah, it works it down. That's the one, the owner put that in for us, just for the work they're doing.
Did you say 90?
You're saying that 8,175 divided by
87.5
80.5 hours is what?
is $93.42 an hour.
87.5 hours. Oh, that's,
Oh, at the very top, it says the invoice. I mean, it says the hours.
yeah, so if,
My other question was, in the packet, there are two other invoices that looks like we have paid. One was for $4,850, and the other was $5,250. But those invoices don't show any hours.
Yes, those are the ones they weren't billing in detail. And Mr. Worcester brought up that we wanted detail, so that's why this new bill with all the detail was brought to the board.
But we have paid those other two invoices.
Yes.
So that brings the total we've paid to $18,275.
That's correct.
Yes.
So is that what their billing is per hour then? So, Mr. Palmer, I believe your calculation is correct. It does look like their billing is $93.43 per hour.
For this one invoice. don't
Well,
know
I
what-
haven't gone back and looked at the other ones, but for this one invoice, that's what it appears to me, yeah.
Yes.
They're-
Yes. And for the other invoices, it didn't have the hours, so I, no way to know.
So we don't know if they overcharged us or not.
But I guess we did approve to hire the CPA firm and with the idea of reducing our audit adjustments for our audit and for training. To me, that was a key word that was in the proposal, was for training. And so I guess the question I have is, is the clerk and treasurer trained now to be able to do this without having a recurring charge from a CPA?
You want to go first, Josh?
Yeah, I'd say right now, it's not, the projects that our CPA has been working on have been the parts that are missing from the virtual audit. So unlike when we had Stevenson before and they came in and prepared the audit, the virtual auditors do not prepare tax documents and a long list of other things that we got with our previous auditor. So a big portion of what you're seeing on this from Mark is the actual audit presentation and going through fixed asset preparation and everything else that has never been done in our offices before, as our auditors were doing that. So that is a big part of this, is the audit preparation that we haven't done that Stevenson used to do when we had them.
Also, back when we had this discussion before, it was late fall, and I explained to this board that if we're going to go away from Stevenson and Company at this point in the year and hire a completely new CPA that's never been to our township, and then a completely new auditing firm, that we were going to spend more money that we have in the past. I said that explicitly. The CPA that came here, Mark, as every other person does that comes here that's new, they underestimate how big Oscoda Township is with all the different funds that we have. He literally said we are bigger than the city of Alpena. So they were not prepared for that, probably when they gave their price for the hourly rate. He went through, he literally has to be hands-on with everything that he's doing to know how Oscoda operates and how everything was happening before he's even going to be able to start to train us to do it. So this year, absolutely not. Did we get any training? He was under the gun to try to get things wrapped up for the year and to get the audit that, our audit that's virtual, that's taken over 2 months to do because it's virtual, instead of a week and a half. They're still trying to wrap up that, and he's doing things for them as well. So to answer your question, Bill, no, we have not received any training yet. If you recall, Josh was doing the bank reconciliations last year, and he was new, and we took him back in the treasurer's office. Well, there's a lot of adjustments that needed to happen to that, and with the interest and stuff like that, with the investments that Josh, clearly had not had the experience to do yet. So the auditor had to go through and adjust all those. And now moving forward, we're trying to set a plan with Mark Sandula to set those training sessions up after we get through this first audit.
Well, there's no question that this CPA firm did a lot of work.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that's clear in the outline that they have here of what they did. And in reviewing the payment of bills, where you go through and the payments, what do they call it, the prepayments for the auditing firm, so far they've only charged us $6,500. If memory serves, our audit with previous audit firm, we were paying $27,000 to $30,000.
Well, if you add.
38,000.
So at this point, we're ahead of the game. Now, I don't know how much more the auditing firm is going to be billing us to finish the audit, but between the CPA and the the audited firm, we're ahead of the game so far.
And my contention is, it's the clerk's and treasurer's job to put the schedules together.
It
White
is
Lake
not.
Township does that. I know in the past, Jamie, it's been done for both offices, but it's clearly a role that needs to be done for the audit. And I'm pushing, that's why I agreed for the training, and I'm looking at all the adjustments, and we're gonna have a meeting at a work session, because we're gonna go through them line by line, and there's a lot of issues yet. There's a lot of issues about deposits not going into the right funds and then adjustments that way, and there's issues on the payable side. Not gonna disagree. I know Josh is being trained, I know he's new, but at some point, we've gotta take the bull by the horn and run. Because I'm not gonna keep this CPA on, at least from my perspective, forever. I want the training in place so we can get past the issues that are causing these adjustments.
And that's
At the
fine.
beginning of the schedule.
That's where we were heading when we had Stevenson, and we were on task with that. So when we changed over last year, I told you that it was gonna cost a lot for the CPA, because they're literally coming into somewhere brand new with no experience. So, yes, it is a lot more money this year. Will we get to it this year? We are literally at the end of June. We're halfway through the year, so are we gonna even get to it this season? I can't tell you that. I don't know. We haven't even wrapped up our audit yet.
I understand that.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I'm well aware of it myself.
But I think the point is that it wasn't, so are we really actually paying more so far, or does it look like we're on a trajectory to pay more this year? I guess I'm not clear. I heard you summarize one way, Jamie, and I heard you summarize differently, Bill. So
It's hard because this is our first year with the virtual audit, so I don't know. I don't know how much extra work or what they've had to do, or
Okay, 'cause
if we're missing things,
Fair enough.
because they are literally not here. They have not stepped
Right.
one step into this township hall.
Okay.
What, I mean, we do have a contract, don't we? with
Yes,
the-
3 years.
Yes.
What with auditor, I mean, what was the estimate? What was the cost for this year's audit?
I'm looking right now because I thought that
It's around
they
18,
had a not
19,000.
to exceed.
Yeah, so,
like 18
I mean, in theory, I mean, I would think they're just billing in increments, and we'll end up getting, the chances of being less than 18,000, I would assume, are slim and none.
Which puts us at
So then it would be 18 and.
$36,000.
Yeah, so, right. Although I guess they can't play the fuel surcharge part, but, yeah.
Well, so far, the auditor has only billed us $6,500.
Right, but what are the, I mean, my point is, we have a contract with them for 18.
18,000.
You really think they're gonna come in at less?
Well, if the CPA firm is doing all this work ahead of time, yeah.
I'll be excited if they do.
Me too.
We'll be talking about it at the work session. I have no issue with the CPA bill as presented, and I appreciate getting the detailed billing, but it's pointing the issues that we have. And honestly, some of them are systemic and repeats. So we'll go through
Well,
that.
some of them,
We'll go through that on July 13th.
Yes,
And
we
we're going to go
will.
through them line item by line item.
Yes, we
Because
will.
I want to root cause back to the problem and fix the problem so it doesn't happen again.
absolutely.
So we are looking for a motion to approve the invoice this evening, correct?
Yes, please.
And I mean, Bill just pointed out.
I think we
that
still
it's
have an issue with the rate.
Not at the rate, that's what I was.
Yeah, I think
just
that
gonna
needs to-
come out of my mouth. So, yeah, so there's
Can
still
we-
an issue with the rate,
Can
correct?
we approve the rate that we agreed to and then let them adjust their invoice accordingly?
Right, that's what I say. I mean,
Maybe
we have an
they-
80,
It's 87.5 hours on
Yeah.
the first one.
so what's 87.5 times
$70,
$85?
76 something. Hold on, I'll get you the exact number.
It was 85?
7437.50.
Okay, so, what was that? I'm sorry, 74?
7437.50.
Okay, all right. So I make a motion that we approve invoice, sorry, what number was that? I just pushed the wrong button. Invoice number 36033 in the amount of $7437.50, based on an $85 an hour pay rate that we agreed to for the billable 87.5 hours that are on this invoice.
And Ann, I'd like you to amend the motion to be split between the treasurer's and the clerk's office 50/50. And I would support that.
So will my budget be amended to reflect that?
Since these were
We'll go through your
unallocated
budget.
amounts to begin with, yes, I would say that they're going to have to be. Correct?
Right.
All right.
Actually, with the new chart of accounts, when it was being billed under the unallocated professional services, that's going to be disappearing anyway, so we would be moving towards breaking that out to the clerk and treasurer's office regardless.
Okay. So I will amend my motion to split between the two with the appropriate budget adjustments as needed.
Support, Worcester Barth.
All right, so there's a motion by Ms. Richards, support by Mr. Westerbarth to approve that invoice that I just lost again. Invoice 36033 in the amount of $7,437.50. Roll call, please.
Wait a minute, in the original motion to hire the CPA firm, did we specify that it would only be $85 an hour?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
that's
in
the
the
one
board
thing
packet.
that was in the
Yeah.
board packet.
It's in the board
that
packet.
That are in our meeting minutes that Tammy was able to locate, correct?
Jamie?
Or Janie, somebody. Did they know that?
The motion.
I hope so. They agreed to it.
They agreed to it.
I thought it
then
was
they
based
should
on
know
the quote.
In the letter from Straley,
Yeah, we
it
didn't
says
pull out
that
there.
our composite rate is somewhere around $85 per hour.
Right, yeah.
And
It
so,
says somewhere,
that's what it says in the letter.
Our motion was $85 an hour.
Right,
That is
right.
what,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
yes.
okay.
Okay, so I'm back to a roll call now? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes,
Mr. Palmer,
Yes,
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Worcester,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
yes.
Ms. Richards.
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the ADA microphone purchase.
So at the, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to make this one quick. Can you hear us okay? Oh, for crying out loud, really?
Talk so quiet all the
I'm
time.
trying to,
shocking.
I was,
You should sit here.
oh, it's on. I'm trying to be less loud because people are like, oh, God, my ears. Right, okay. Well, I'll
That's
try
because
to,
we're generally talking to the person, so you turn your head. I mean, with all
Yeah.
it's very difficult to talk into a microphone when I'm trying to talk and look
Bill,
at somebody.
yeah,
and-
or
yeah.
Tim.
So, I mean, we lose the actual, the professionalism of
Yeah.
looking at the person that you're talking to because I'm so focused on the microphone.
Right.
So, and again, I'm not trying to be
that's right.
dismissive, but-
Nobody likes to get talked to when you're,
Yeah, so yeah, okay.
well, I will make every effort to speak a little louder so that we're all on the same level.
Thanks.
And that way you're not messing with your volume. But as a general rule for tonight, has this made a difference?
Unbelievably so.
Okay.
Right.
I get placed with another hearing aid on Thursday. Cross my fingers. The only issue with this one, or the kind that I have, is it gives me feedback. So I have to put it in front of my ear. Otherwise, I have this squealing that I'm sure that people can hear.
Right on. Well, bear in mind that we have those headsets here for general use, but if there's a set that you like better, you can still use the pack with your own headset if you find one that you like. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. And the reason that I was asking that specifically is because the microphone purchase that's on the agenda today was based on whether or not the headsets are working well enough. And if you're happy with their performance, then I would make a motion to not get the microphones at this time, and we can revisit it in the future should the need arise.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Feedback, yes, definitely wait at least one or two more meetings, because by then I'll have my other hearing aid
Okay.
and see how well that works.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. So we are postponing.
No, I'm just going to say no. We're not doing it right now. I move
Okay,
to
so
say no.
No action.
No action is needed on this item.
I figured since it was on the agenda, we had to do one thing or the other. We can't just leave it sitting there and not do anything.
Well,
And so
that would
that's
be no
why.
action. So make
fair
a
enough.
motion to do no action.
No.
All right, so all right, Mr. Spencer makes a motion to do no action at this time in regard to ADA microphone, and I would support that. Ms. Richards. All right, roll call. No action is the motion at this time.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wushabarth?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to part-time treasurer assistant hire request.
I guess that's me.
That is your,
So this is just a regular housekeeping thing. As with all seasonal returns, I have to have the board's approval to return Parker Cleary to the treasurer's office for the 22 tax year. The position is already a part of my budget for the year, and the pay will be determined by the clerk's office according to our pay scale.
okay, is there any questions or?
And just a comment from the board, I know this came up again last year, but Parker Cleary is my nephew by marriage. I just want to make that known to the board, and I think we've already went through this a couple of times where I'm not allowed to recuse myself for Josh. Okay.
Yep, really. But we appreciate you bringing it,
Offering.
That's right.
again, indicating this year that you're.
I would
Still
like
his
to
uncle.
recuse myself.
I know you would like to. I've been advised that that is not necessary. So is there a motion to approve the hire request as presented? I move to approve the request as presented. Richards, is there support?
Support Sutton?
Okay, there's a motion by Richards, support by Sutton to approve the request as submitted. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wushabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to the Oscoda Lions Club Annual Community Picnic at the Oscoda Beach Park.
So this is the annual request from the Rotary and the Lions Club to use the area around the bathhouse for community picnic on 4th of July.
Okay. I mean, we're hearing so much about how short we are in staff. How are we looking for the 4th of July? Because we're inviting oodles and oodles of people there, so.
We are set up for porta potties like we have in the past.
Right.
And I know myself and a couple other people have volunteered to help out as well. So,
And we're all good on the fireworks themselves?
yes.
Okay. All right, I make a motion, we approve the use request as presented with also a thanks to the Lions Club and everybody else that helps out for everything that they do for the community function.
I would support that, but indicate that it's a joint effort between the Lions and the Rotary.
Okay, I will amend my motion to
Yes.
Include the Rotary?
We
include the
work, we
Rotary.
work together on this project.
Okay. All right, so there's a motion by Richards and support by Mr. Palmer to approve the request, along with a thank you to both entities. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wushabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Number 5 is Oscoda Township remediation wish list discussion. Tammy.
Okay, so Eagle reached out to myself, Ms. Richards, and Mr. Palmer to create a wish list for remediation from the Air Force. I had spoken with the township's attorney, as I felt this should be a board decision to come up with this list, not myself, Ms. Richards, or Mr. Palmer. Therefore, this issue is being brought before the board for discussion.
Was there, did I miss that in the board packet?
I had nothing. They just requested, Eagle requested.
The reason they requested something is because they were.
They were approached by the DOD.
Right, they were approached by the DOD, who might have some funds coming up. You know, what was the goals, not just for our location, but many others, correct?
Right.
And what was the wish list? So.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to speak for Bill, but neither one of us was comfortable speaking on behalf of the board. And Tammy expressed the same concern that she didn't, want to speak on behalf of the board as to what our wish list was to Eagle.
Right.
I mean, my thoughts were our wish list is that we are remain, our permit is, the checklist that they've given us for our permit, and anything that the DOD is, caused us to not be close to achieving correctly, be corrected, I guess. So,
Is this the whole PFAS stuff?
yeah.
Well, where this came from was at the last RAB meeting, when I sat in for Mr. Cummings, and when I spoke to the Air Force about slip lining the drains, the Mission Street plant and the storm sewer for the central plant, because they use our storm sewers for the effluent, the clean water that comes out of the two plants.
Right.
And originally, we had sent bills to the Air Force for use of those two lines. Well, once they were paying the fee for the Central Street plant when it went online, then when the Mission Street plant came online, they declined to pay that and quit paying the other one, and haven't paid us on either one of them for quite some time, right?
Years.
And so, when Dr. Varley came on board, and I mentioned, we started talking about that, she suggested, and our engineer agreed would be a good solution, was to slip line those lines so that we don't have to worry about future problems with maintaining those storm sewer lines.
Right.
The Mission Street line, we have had problems in the past where the township has to expend funds to rotor-rooter the roots out of there, because with the amount of water that they're pumping through there, if you get it blocked, it floods the villages over there in a pretty short order.
Absolutely.
So what happened was, our understanding, and I think Mr. Freeman would confirm this, that our understanding was, in those talks, they were going to slip line both lines, both storm sewer lines. And with that agreement, we agreed then they wouldn't have to pay that monthly fee that we had proposed. They would pay it was a minimal fee of like $150 total or something, some small amount that they would pay, but they would slip line both lines. When I asked at the RAB meeting when they were planning on doing the slip lining, they said, well, they're putting it off until the 2023 budget, which starts October 1st of this year.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they're going to do it October 1st, although they might. But the problem is, when I brought that up, they said, well, we're only going to slip line one.
Oh, good Lord.
That's the Mission Street plan, because you've had problems with that. So what, in essence, what they're saying is that we know you've had problems with the Mission Street line, so we'll slip line that one to help eliminate those problems.
Right.
But they're assuming you're never going to have a problem with the central plant over the next 30 or 40 years or 50 years that these pumping stations are going to be operating.
An important point about what you're saying is that we were levying these fees to the Air Force for the purpose of wear and tear on the storm drains,
Yes.
knowing that we would have to maintain them. Now they want them back for free, and they don't want to give us the money that we would need to actually maintain. And the amount of water volume through these storm drains for the years to come is going to inevitably result in significant cost and maintenance.
Well, right now, the central treatment plant is licensed to pump 700,000 gallons of water a day.
That's right.
When this new system comes online, that will bump up to 1.4 million gallons a day. That's a lot of water going through lines that were not intended to
Correct.
transport that much water on a regular basis. They were meant to handle
Storm.
rainwater.
Storm.
That's all.
So it sounds like our wish list should be clean up your mess and pay the bills that were incurred therefrom. Short, sweet, and to the point.
Well,
Well,
Well, and I guess
short slip
we had
lining.
That's a wish
talked with
list,
them
right?
a couple times, and the Air Force has actually been quite well now that we've changed over who was heading their team. And I know they still do want to slip line that, and I believe in the discussions we had, the intent was if we had other issues, they would then look at those with that system as well to cover it.
It sounds like dancing around, passing the buck to me. We've already told them what the problems are, and they won't even pay for the things that they're already doing. Sorry, I'm just irritated by these people. It's really driving me
Yeah,
crazy.
well, I mean, they are still talking about the, not talking, but they pretty much, I hate to use the word promise, because you can't guarantee anything. But there's a general move towards the lining of the one, and then, again, not referring to it as stormwater discharge, but as treatment water discharge, and addressing the other with a rent to discharge into that. Because I think the goal that I heard is that they're gonna, eventually maybe not be discharging, they're, looking at other avenues of treatment in that area. So and we've had such big problems in the Mission Street with all the houses and trees.
Right, so they're gonna
and
push
so
it
on.
off for another year, and
No,
then
not
right at
another
the,
year.
right before they're.
Their fiscal year
Yeah.
is different than ours. It's October, and they're actually waiting for the retirement of one individual who has been maybe holding things back a little bit, so, which is happening this summer.
So, but 1.4 million gallons of water per day is a volume of use that those existing storm sewers were never meant
Well, right,
to
they're
take.
stormwater
So,
drainage, not treatment.
precisely, a storm, not a deluge.
Right,
not-
if we
not-
had that much rain, the whole
not a-
town of Oscoda
Not a
would be gone.
planetary
Yes,
flood,
yeah, right.
right?
Yep.
We're talking about a storm. And so, my point being, I'm starting to hear words of, it sounds like they're being cooperative. I don't think I'm hearing cooperation. I think I'm hearing, I don't know, I think I'm hearing double talk. Because
Amen.
because in the end, we haven't been paid. I don't really think that that we're going to be compensated the money to do the slip lining. If they were to pay all the bills, we wouldn't have incurred enough income to do the slip lining ourselves. I think that's correct, because the cost of slip lining is expensive. So,
Far more than the rental fee.
so
would be,
if there
yes.
was a wish list here, and it sounds like that's the question,
Right.
I would be like, fine, slip line both of those lines.
Right, and maybe we could slip line both, or pay a discharge for the treated water that would help create a fund to maintain in the future.
That's what we were trying to do when
should
we were
do it.
assessing
They
the
should
fee in the
pay
first
anyways.
place,
And they
though.
blew us
They should
off.
pay
That's right.
anyways.
That's
I mean,
Just
if I
saying that
recall correctly,
we put
this
it both
was,
ways.
this has been going on since before we even took office.
Yeah,
They were
it's
talking
been
about
going
this
on
same
forever, yes.
issue, and now they're, we have to wait until the next fiscal year.
And they haven't been paying for, and it's going through and it's not on,
Years.
so, yeah.
Doggone it anyway.
Right.
So
Right,
again,
well,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
I mean, come on.
This
And
is an
for-
Eagle wish list to
Yep.
go back towards the Air Force, because I think, personally, I need a lot more information to create a wish list. I know we have representatives of the RAB, and actually I have a person I live with as a representative of the RAB as well. But there's other issues too that have just recently happened, that the EPA has lowered the standards to basically non-detect in drinking water to the trillion level, which according to what I've been told, they can't even test for that. But that needs to be in this wish list, and we need to discuss, because it further expands our water within the township. So I think we really need to get all parties involved, including the NOW group, and let's sit down and talk about it and develop that joint wish list from the people who've really been working on it 100% of the time.
I think where that wish list would come into play is with the Eagle approaching the Air Force, saying that the money that Oscoda has put out to install water main extensions to these areas of concern, which is what they were, and the Air Force in the very beginning said that any wells that test over the 70 parts per trillion, we would pay to extend water mains and hook those people up. I think there were only one or two of them. All the others in the areas of concern were under the 70 parts per trillion limit, but with these new EPA, and the Air Force says they can only go by EPA standards, not Michigan standards, the EPA standards. Well, now if EPA is lowering those standards, then on our wish list should be for the Air Force to reimburse the township for the money we've extended for extending these water lines into areas of concern that would be now below or above the EPA standards. Now, the problem is the EPA is only issuing an advisory through the end of this year. They won't have enforceable standards until next year. But once those enforceable standards are in place, depending, and I attended a webinar with EPA where they went over these issues, and what they will be taking into account when they have the enforceable issues is what levels can you actually test to? Because when they're saying a level of 0.004 trillion or parts per trillion, you can't test for that, at least not with any reliability for any testing things that we have available now. So when they come up with the enforceable standards, they will be higher than that. But I believe they're going to be lower than what Michigan has already issued MCLs for. They'll be lower than what, and Michigan has some of the lowest MCLs in the country. So I think our wish list should be that we get reimbursed from the Air Force for money that the township has had to expend, expanding these water mains
Yes,
to properties that the Air Force should have
we're
been
contaminated.
responsible for under the
agree
new
with
EPA guidelines. Now, that would be going back in time, but if we're creating a wish list,
That's one of them.
put that on there. The other
Well, I
thing.
guess we're creating this wish list on behalf of Eagle, though, from the DOD? I guess my concern with all of this is that I think we need a meeting with Eagle, the Air Force, and the township. Because it seems like a few of us are getting different things from the RAB, the Now Group, Eagle, and other representatives, and I think we're literally competing in a circle against each other. And I think probably best would be to get all parties to the table and discuss this, because I have concern that Eagle reached out to just 3 people from our township, whether
didn't-
that was on behalf of the DOD or
And
not.
didn't include the RAB representative in the
Right,
process.
Right, that's, yeah, we didn't
Sorry.
have the RAB representative, we didn't have anybody else.
Yeah.
And I understand this is a long-going project.
I was the RAB representative,
I'm the permanent RAB representative,
and Beth Place,
voted by the board. You were
Beth
one for
Place-
my meeting. That was all I'm saying.
Beth
But they
Place sat
didn't
next
include
to
me in
me.
the email.
Beth Place sat next to me from Eagle,
Okay.
and when I proposed about the slip lining, and it came up that they were only gonna do one,
Right.
she was taken aback as well,
I don't blame her.
which
Yeah,
is the
sure.
reason she reached out in the first place, I
Sure.
think.
Sure.
Because they are the enforcing agency for the state for this whole project.
I just think we would be good to get everybody to the table at once to discuss it, instead of what the Air Force wants to do, what Eagle thinks we can do, and what other people want us to do. I think we really need to be responsible and sit down with all of those parties at once and develop a plan going forward, because I know we've set in where currently Eagle and the Air Force are testing in the same area on that RAB meeting where they were on that bank by the marsh. And how much work are we duplicating, and are they cooperating, or are they testing the same wells in the same areas? I think there's just a real disconnect between Eagle, the Air Force, and ourselves, and a lot of frustration on what has been promised or told to us and what we're actually able to get in dealing with them all separately.
So would you be proposing that Oscoda Township as a board, all 7 of us, a representative from Now, a representative from Eagle, and a representative from the DOD?
I'm open to that. That
And
sounds
the
good.
RAB.
And the RAB.
Well, we
Yeah,
have.
we
Well, the
should have
I
the,
guess-
yeah,
That would
if the
include
board's there, the
Well-
RAB chair's there.
Well, I was gonna say that would include, I mean, the
The
RAB
co-chairs.
chair from, yes.
I think that's a great idea. And then when we have that meeting, then they can sit there and point fingers at each other, and then we'll figure out what's actually going on.
I'm sure that'll happen.
Correct.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just
Oh,
feel
yeah.
bad because you can walk into it, and I've sat in with Eagle, I've went to the RAB to see what was going on over there. I was able to tune in to Now meetings and different things throughout COVID.
I'm excited.
And I'm tired of seeing different reps at different meetings from those agencies giving different stories to each organization.
Yeah.
And then when we all sit down, it's, well, that's not what they told me. Well, no, this is what they said. Well, then we're arguing and we're not. The overall thing is we want to solve the water issue,
Amen.
Correct.
like, period.
Clean up your
Well,
mess.
yeah, it's not
pay
And if
the
you
bill.
put them all to the table and you kind of hold their feet to the fire, what are we going to do going forward and how are we going to work together? Because we can't have Eagle and the Air Force working against each other with us in the middle. I just feel we're losing every time we
Well,
do.
the problem is, I guess I gathered, or I shouldn't say it's a problem, but didn't you gather that Eagle wanted this wish list rather quick?
I think even this meeting was a little late for
Right,
them.
so they're kind of coming up with their own thing, but to me, this kind of opened a door of, okay, you asked us for a wish list. We're wanting, this goes beyond a wish list.
That's right.
We would like a meeting now with all the new things coming down and different, dialogue happening, a meeting between this board and then the representation that we just indicated,
Right.
which, again, could result in a wish list, but, maybe just summarize some things, goals and objectives moving forward.
As topics for this list, not that this is necessarily we're establishing the list, but just consideration for topics of this list that we're talking about. For years, this township has accumulated its costs toward this whole water contamination problem, hoping that one day we might get reimbursed. I don't know how you've tagged that in the books, Jamie, to be able to report on how much that
That would be the
is.
general ledger, which would be Josh, by the way.
Fair enough, but
I don't know how you would
Fair
ever,
enough.
how would you ever tag
How
the
would you-
amount of hours that have been spent
It's
by
not
the
the
billing,
hours.
our
It would be the
utility
invoices
billing
It's not the
clerk,
hours.
or- yeah,
It's
I
not the
mean,
hours.
Our
It would-
engineer,
it tr-
how many hours has our engineer spent on all this?
because they were tangible bills that we
Yes,
paid with that,
right.
that's the difference. That's not the hours, it's
Right.
it's
Actual
the actual
invoice.
costs that we knew we were incurring, hoping that, because we were doing it under the guise of what was best for the township, hoping that maybe one day we could get reimbursed. The other topic was that at one time, this is now some years ago, early in the conversation with one of the earlier project managers, the idea of extending the wall that surrounded where the actual contamination flows out beyond the physical boundary of property.
like the curtain,
And the
basically.
curtain is what the word they used, exactly. And so, there was a point at which we were thinking they were going to extend the curtain a significant distance along F-41, along the south. And then it wasn't that, it was now we just are going to pump a whole lot more water from the center of the Air Force Base. And we're like, well, that wasn't quite what I thought. So we're still flowing out. We haven't perimeterized this yet. And again, it goes back to a point I made to the Air Force in one of those BRAC meetings where I said, your CERCLA process is so slow that Mother Nature has you pegged. She's going to be so much further ahead of you by the time you get all these volumes of documentation. And it's exactly what happened, because shortly after that, they then started to announce that, they're finding the contamination in wells across the street from the base on F-41. And I was like, are you kidding me? So that didn't take long. That was just a few months of us being allowed to be in those meetings before they kicked us out. Anyway, so those were just 2 points that I remember from early on that I'd like to say we should consider. I mean, I don't know how much money they think they've got in their wallet, but I'd like to spend it.
Well, and it wasn't, again, just to be clear, it wasn't just allocated for
I understand.
Michigan or Oscoda specifically, it was just.
I'm actually
general.
suggesting, and I'm suggesting a tone and a posture, that we don't go in there saying, please, mister, could you give us a little? I'm saying, bring your hammer down and say it's about time. Well, maybe not quite that bad.
Yeah,
but
Jeremy.
you get the point, Ann. It's like, I really don't think, because we have had a history of soft shoeing with the Air Force in this topic, and I don't like it. I would like us to be more assertive on it. I think it's time. It's been too many years, too many decades.
Okay.
That's all.
So, I mean, bottom line, we're not going to come up with a wish list this evening. We're requesting a meeting. Correct?
Yes, I think Tim made a motion
Did you make a
at the
motion?
beginning of his speech.
Replay.
Did I know?
Don't know. Did he?
Yes, he did.
He says he
Then-
doesn't know if he did.
No. Okay, well,
Make it
I'll make
again.
the motion that we schedule a special meeting with Eagle.
That was actually Josh, I thought.
Was it Josh?
Yeah, it was Josh.
That was Josh. I'm sorry, Josh has already made the motion. I will second that motion.
I was going to say that was Josh. So, Mr. Sutton made a motion in regard to having a meeting with the full township board, representation from Eagle, the DOD, and now.
Is this going to be?
RAB,
And the RAB,
and the Air Force.
DOD Air
Yeah,
Force,
they're
sorry.
the same entity
Yeah.
usually.
Is this going to be a regular meeting that we can do motions and vote on things, or
No.
is this going to be a work
Well,
session
the board's
for
gonna be a-
discussion?
The board's convened, it'll be a special meeting.
Yeah, it'd have to be a special meeting.
Or it can be done in one of our regular meetings, but I would assume this would be a special meeting.
No, we'd have a special meeting.
So we'll be able to, so it's not going to be a work session, we can sit down and say, yeah.
Correct.
and
The
I-
board's
Special meeting.
convened, so we can make motions.
So we'll amend that motion to be a special meeting, just so it's not as a work session. Good luck getting all of us together on that one, but we'll do our best. All right, roll call.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Items 6 and 7 were agenda additions, just to keep them on the agenda to continue on the postponement of discussion. They were the storage units and the selling property.
I will make a motion that we postpone the storage containers topic until we have further information.
Support Spencer. I'm sorry. Support Spencer.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. McGuire and support by Mr. Spencer to postpone until we have additional information. Roll call.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. And then I make a motion that we postpone the selling of, was it just township property or
property.
real? I forgot how
Township.
It was
Property.
stated as real, but
Yeah, it was supposed to be
stated-
just township property.
Right.
Postpone discussion.
And what exactly are we waiting for that?
I have no idea.
Lisa, still waiting on the attorney.
On what?
On the
The
attorney.
attorney.
Oh, okay.
Was that the one we were in closed session for?
No,
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 Oh,
this
no,
is
never mind.
for,
that was buying.
this is actually
purchased.
for the boat,
Yes.
Okay.
Right, on the
Oh,
boat.
that's right.
the
boat.
fire department
Okay.
boat.
I mean, I knew what it was for, but I guess I didn't know what we were waiting on, so.
The attorney.
I'll support that.
All right, so there's a motion by Richards, support by Sutton, to postpone discussing the selling of township property.
And postpone till when?
Next
I
meeting.
guess when we have,
Till you get further
Next
information.
yeah, next
I
meeting?
should have it by then.
Okay,
Next meeting.
till our next scheduled meeting. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Worcester?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. Richards?
Yes, motion carried. Okay. I did want to pull one informational item out just to announce that we have picked a grand marshal for the two communities, Oscoda and Asable, and that is Gary Cullen. Gary Cullen will serve as the grand marshal for both communities, and he was very honored to be requested to do that. The thought was he has worked for our Oscoda Township, before Oscoda Township, I think the, whoever used to do the, what was that called out here? The property management before, I don't know.
was
And then the
office.
airport authority, but basically, his involvement in the community is going to be forever woven into many documents and records. If you look back into, I mean, boxes and boxes of stuff is his name. He just recently retired from the airport authority and just felt it was a good fit. So anyways, he will be, and then moving forward, would like to kind of form a committee in regard to that selection, just so that we're not dealing with it at a board level as a vote and so on. So we have a committee and then we bring up a recommendation
For,
for a grand marshal moving forward, so in years to come. Okay, all right, and
make
then
it a
with that,
real
going
quick,
on
couldn't-
to public comment?
Can we get, I see that Miss Lovelace is here. Can we get a quick update on the Hope Grant that we were?
Oh, well,
We-
there's
It's in
information in the
information in there.
packet.
It's just the listing of the grant.
It's just the
but-
listing of the grant and information.
Basically,
Yeah, she can wait until public comment and make public comment then.
I was just going to give her an update on what I thought we were talking about with doing that Hope Grant. But I can just say it during board comment, I suppose.
Okay, all right. Okay, so moving on to public comment section on the agenda. Now is the time if you have a public comment, and you can comment on anything that is not on the board or in the agenda or whatever you'd like to comment on. You are still limited to 4 minutes, and you do not need to fill out a card. I'm just going to start, because it's easier, I'm going to start right to left. Huh? Okay,
Start over
I've been asked to start over here. So I will start over here, so I'm going to go on the left hand. And remember, when you come up, to state your name. Nope, it's all the way on the left-hand side, so not you yet. Okay? Yes,
Oh,
you,
you're-
I'm
yep.
sorry, I'm talking to, the person,
You,
yes.
Pam.
Yes, you, Pam, sorry. Yeah. And then Manuel is not here, but still, if you could, you're supposed to state your name and,
My name's Pam Lovelace, and I came to find out about the HOPE grant to see if the township is going to apply. Because this grant has a short trigger on it, right? We have till the middle of August, I believe, to get submission in. And only the township or a nonprofit can apply. So where it's important, I introduced this to the township because it's a grant that goes to individual homeowners in our area to be able to retrofit and to improve their properties. So, and it's all types of properties, which is a big deal. A lot of times they won't include a manufactured home or a mobile home, but this program actually will handle all types of properties, and it's $25,000 per homeowner. So if we can apply and get those funds here, it'll really help a lot of people. The program actually even gives 5% to the entity that is approved to be able to administer the program. So you're actually being compensated for that staff to be able to hand out the funds. So I wanted to know if the township was going to apply, because if they can't apply for whatever reasons, I know you guys have a lot going on right now. I'm in the process also of doing a nonprofit, because my corporation is a for-profit, so I can't apply directly. They did ask me to participate as a developer, and my answer was, I'm not interested in participating unless Oscoda is going to participate.
well, I mean, it was on the agenda as an informational item, not as an item to act on, so I
Right.
just thought it was
I-
information on the,
Yeah.
in the packet. So,
It was something I gave out
Right, I
to the
understand you
township in
did
the
it a
last
couple
meeting,
meetings
so
ago, but-
I know
yeah.
I've had a couple of conversations on the program with Todd since then, so that's why I was waiting to see. Oh, but there was one more thing
Okay.
that I wanted to add that's off topic of HOPE. I did get my 2 purchase agreements on Friday from the township, and it's gone to my attorney for review. It's going to be a couple of weeks before I can get them executed because I've got a family emergency.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to fly out this week because my dad's in ICU. So I'm going to have to go. Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. That's not good.
So that's it.
Just
you.
a question, Tammy, if you can research, is the question I have on the HOPE grant, I just want to see if we're competing with NIMSCA in any way,
Okay.
just because they're kind of the regional entity responsible for a lot of that housing support and needs.
right.
Well,
That I
that's-
guess was my question, NEMSCA, or the housing, doesn't Iosco County have a housing authority?
Yeah, well, that's why we put we had some information and wanted to get the board familiar with it. We knew we had until the middle of August. So the thought is to research it more, go through it with Rick, and find out if it was going to be something that would be feasible for us to do
Right.
with, very
Everything
little
else that we have
information
going.
of what we had in the beginning.
How would you
so.
determine how much of a grant you would apply for?
I'm not sure.
That was my big question, it's a wonderful opportunity, but
I just don't,
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm sorry. I guess I feel more comfortable. I'm not saying that you don't know about the program, but I think that we need to do our own due diligence and look into it and see how it would maybe fit within the existing entities that we have, which is the Housing Authority and NEMSCA. So, because they have different programs now, so.
Right.
Okay, okay, now moving into the middle section, raise your hand, please, just so that everybody doesn't, if you want to speak on public comment, okay? I'm just going to go up the row. Are you raising? Oh, I'm just going up the row, so yes. If you could raise your hand so I know who wants to speak. And then when you come up to the podium, please state your name.
Deborah Rauch. Okay, I got a list.
Okay.
All right, my first thing is the art walk. I wasn't able to get into town to go to the thing that you guys had on Friday night, but I did go and look at the art that was displayed around town, and the ones on the building look pretty good. I very disappointed in the pedestals. I mean, to me, they look very cheap. They're like flower pots with cement in a fence post. The art's nice, but I don't think they're worthy of what, for the.
That was a temporary, they're now all
Okay, that's what
installed.
I was gonna ask.
Okay.
So that's just temporary? So, okay,
If you
nobody
went
ever,
back to that same spot, it would be actually in the ground now.
they're in the ground? They were in pots and now they've actually stuck them into the ground?
Correct.
Okay, all right, I'll try to take a look at them. All right, can you guys look at the protocol for adding items to the agenda? Because it seems like a lot of things get added right before the meeting starts, and I don't think I thought from what I read, it's supposed to be for emergency things to be added to the agenda, but I don't know. Okay, I got a copy of Mr. Dickerson's list of all his accomplishments that he's done for this town. And there was a couple on there that I was kind of curious about, like the Lake Theater. I don't know what he's done for the Lake Theater. It's been there forever. Maybe he got some money for them or something. I don't know. He put 118 East River Road on there, which is the house right next to the Historical Museum. It's the house I grew up in. That house has been there forever. It's been apartments forever. Right now, it doesn't look very good because they've taken a bunch of the siding off. And so I don't know what he's taking credit for that. He put the cabin that is behind the coffee shop as an Airbnb. That's been a rental since I was a baby. My parents owned that. It's been a rental since then. So I don't know why he's taking credit. I'm just saying that there seem to be a lot of things on there that he's trying to take credit for that I don't like. He's just trying to add on to his list to make it look like he's accomplishing more than he's actually done. Okay, so I didn't understand a lot of the stuff that he put on there. The meeting minutes, I've mentioned this before, they're supposed to be put out like 8 days after the meeting, and I never see them posted until Friday before the next meeting. But I think in the law, Open Meetings Act, they're supposed to be put out 8 days after. I wanted to tell Ann and Jamie, I was very pleased that you guys tried to at least get these guys to talk about Mr. Dickerson's contract.
Okay, if you could, again, refrain from names, just
Okay,
address
well,
the
the contract
position.
that was,
Okay.
you guys voted on, I think it was something, I mean, I was very pleased that you guys did that. I was very disappointed that the rest of you refused to do it. It's a large amount of money. It's our money. And you guys refused to talk about what you expect from him. And from what I could tell, there hadn't been a meeting discussing what to expect from him. And there should have been. Let's see. And during that discussion, you guys talked about, well,
I'm sorry, your time is up.
okay.
Sorry, I don't know if it's behind.
Okay, I see it
is
now.
above as
Okay,
well.
thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
They usually have a beeper. I don't know why that's not going on.
Right, there's normally a beeper that indicates at the end, I'm not sure, just looking to the MICTV crew there to see. Okay, and I did just want to indicate, because we did expend a lot of money on the art walk, and there was a lot of time invested personally by some people in the community to go So they are all permanently in place now, so. Okay, just wanted to mention that. Including, I think, 3 or 4 along the beach park. I'm not sure, yeah. Yeah.
I saw people.
Okay, yep, I'm just indicating that people did actually put them permanently in place. So the meeting that was Friday night was to announce the winners, and then we couldn't put them in place until the winners were announced and everybody, so then they went out and permanently put them in place. So they are permanently in place now. Okay, all right, then. Well, thank you. Okay, anybody else in that area for public comment? Actually, I'll come back to you. I think it's Dirk. Okay, because she was here and has been raising her hand the entire time. And I'm sorry, I forgot your name from the last meeting. Okay.
I promise not to talk at every meeting. The first question I have is there ever a time when you can have question and answers between the public and the board?
Generally.
Or can I ask that question?
You can ask that question. Public comment is public comment. We don't necessarily respond back, so.
So if a person wants to know, like, an answer to something that happened at this meeting, where do we get our response from, or where do we get our feedback from?
You could email us,
Okay?
or if superintendent, and then the superintendent would go from there.
Okay. I know at a lot of board meetings, they have the open time when you can have discussions back and forth. So that was a question I had. At the last board, and see, I don't know if I can ask this question, tell me if I can't. At the last board meeting, you had things that were duplicate payments that had been made, and you were working to try to retrieve that money back from that. Has that been taken care of, being it was not addressed tonight in the meeting?
You're talking about the gas,
Cracos.
correct?
Kratos.
We're still
Correct.
looking into that, correct?
Okay, so it's still open
Yes.
item. There are a lot of people, again, social media is our favorite friend, but as I'm watching it tonight, apparently back in December, and I would have to go back and look, but Zoom, to calm it down, to put it back and put it in a Zoom meeting? And that, I'm just asking the question because that question is out there. Tonight, there were several people you had come up to the podium, and unfortunately, like I said, I'm just been back a year, but we all come up here and introduce ourselves, and they need to introduce themselves, because I'm not real sure. This lady in the front, I can kind of make out who she is. This gentleman, now I can kind of figure out what he does. I don't know the names, but we need to have that so that we can keep up with who those folks are too, if that's okay.
Okay,
And
duly noted.
the last suggestion I have, because I'm always going to have a suggestion when you guys have to hear from me, but after 40 years of working for the Department of Defense, like I said before, and just retiring, our social media was something that we kind of, even though it was ours, in our capacity, we did not refer to anything that had to do with our jobs. We didn't entertain questions with it. We didn't make comments about things. And I would just suggest that as members of this board, if people address you on social media, first of all, that's a question and answer period that you're telling me we're not having anyway. So there should be no response from board members regarding any business that's taken care of that belongs to this forum. And there keeps getting things posted, again on Facebook, that are being maybe taken away out of context. But my suggestion would be, a lot of times, a response comes from a certain board member in a private message to a person, then it's put out there. We were kind of, our hands were kind of slapped, that we needed to maintain some integrity, and that what we did at our jobs was not a social media item. And the people need to come to the board meeting. They need to come here and find out what's going on. I don't like coming out on cold nights, but I came. So I would like a question and answer period. That would be wonderful. And I think that would maybe open up some traffic between the public and the board. And like I said, I have no sides in this. I'm just trying to get deeper and figure out. I talked to Mr. Al tonight from Old Orchard Park. I'm going to go really fast. A lot of my time was with recreation with the Air Force, and I had 3 big campgrounds, and I'm going to make contact with him and see if there's any way I can try to assist him a little bit with the problem that he's having with, employees, and get some more help out there to get him through the summer, so.
I'm sorry, your time is up, sorry.
Dang it, I didn't do this last time.
I was writing down what
Thank
you
you.
were saying, and I didn't. look
Thank
at
you
the
for
time.
getting involved.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate your feedback.
Definitely.
Okay, now, Dirk, did you want to come up? Yes. Okay. Hey, if you could please state your name.
Dirk Thompson Hunt,
Okay.
6910 Knollwood. I've just recently gotten back after being in and out of town the last couple of months down at Ohio
The
State James.
timer, yeah, okay.
I got it. Sorry. Sticking.
With the diagnosis I have, sometimes my voice gives out of me, so I recorded. I think the volume is going to be correct on this, my comment for tonight. People are discussing it. The majority of you are, though that majority shifts in terms of the population of it. But once again, we're going to go back to mincing cents and change, trying to take over the treasurer's office. You got rid of the attorney. You got rid of the superintendent. You just tried to destroy Ann here forever. So anyways, just want to let you guys know I'm back. Had to just escape the lunacy of a town that employs a guy that tells the whole town he has a gun in a bar, and the township paper even says he needs to go. Yeah, really pretty interesting. But anyways, I think it was Bob Tasher said, I apologize for something at a planning committee meeting, or News Talk apologize. I didn't. I just got back. News to me, I didn't apologize for anything. You jokers first harassed me by saying I was violating a sign permit by putting a banner in my window, and then you wanted me to provide architectural drawings and.
Turn the mic off. Thank you. So you're going to nowhere.
That's okay, just let him go.
Again, I'm requesting that you turn the phone off. The mic is now off. Turn the phone off, Dirk.
He's out of order, Ann.
You are out of order, and I'm requesting that you please step away from the podium. Dirk, I'm asking you to please step away from the podium. You are out of order. Could you please come down and ask Mr. Hunt to walk away from the podium? If you could please step away from the podium. Thank you very much, Dirk. I appreciate that.
So disappointing.
Okay. If you could reset the timer. All right, you can turn the mic back on to the podium. Do we have somebody else in the middle comment that would like to comment? Yes?
Okay, we'll see.
I'm Nancy Roy, and I want to thank all of you for this wonderful equipment. It's a totally different meeting when I can hear each and every one of you, almost. But I do appreciate it, and I'm sure anybody who has any disabilities will appreciate this wonderful piece of equipment as well. Do we have more than one?
Five.
We have five.
Five, wonderful. I don't imagine you'll ever be able to use them all at one time, but that's wonderful to have. Thank you again. I just want to make a couple of comments. We still are paying the EIC director under operations and management, or excuse me, operations and maintenance. I think you should put it in a different category because that expands your costs under operations and management by his monthly payment. It's not very reflective of what actually the charges will be every month. I wanted to understand, it's something like Schweikert, Nancy?
Nancy Schweikert is our
Yes.
township assessor, yes.
The $30,000 for the 2 months, does that include her staff or is she it?
She has staff as well.
Okay, so that includes her staff. Okay, that's a little more reasonable, all right? And Ann, you made a public comment about the recusals, that it's not, that you were told it's not necessary. However, I want to point out that it should be utilized because it protects each board member and also looks more professional when they do have a reason to recuse themselves. It may not be necessary in this small town, but it will protect you each individually if there is a situation like that. And then finally, I am somewhat technologically illiterate, but I do have a problem with the MIC TV program. So as I understand it, you have to subscribe to be able to view and comment. No, you don't? Really?
No.
Because that's what they're putting on TV as you're watching. You only get to see about 10 minutes. Well, excuse me, I believe it takes 10 minutes before you get any audio. I'm assuming that's because you have to subscribe. I have not subscribed because I didn't feel it was necessary. It's a public body.
Right.
You should be able to watch it without subscribing.
Correct.
Okay, and you should also be able to make a comment on that entity or whatever.
I don't know that. We'll have to look into that.
That's a YouTube thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
That's a YouTube thing. You have to sign up for YouTube in order to put
Yes.
comments on their platform.
Oh, okay, so you have to sign up for YouTube, not necessarily MIC TV.
Correct.
Okay,
Because
And
that's what they're putting it out on, is
Correct.
YouTube. Yes.
MIC
Okay.
TV is not a contracted liaison between the township residents and the board, or they're just a person that, or an entity that
That-
provides us the
okay.
video camera and the audio. And Thank you.
I've tried, and I just,
it's all right.
okay, it would be
You're good.
nice to be able to figure it out. I got enough apps and stuff like that on my phone. I don't like to add more junk.
I understand.
Okay, so that's all I have, but I do want to tell you, I really appreciate, this is a godsend.
Good.
Because before I could not hear much of anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We're happy to have you.
All right. Okay, anybody else in the middle section? Okay, moving on to the last section. I know you had indicated about, but, all right, you good? All right. Leighton?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just please state your name.
A couple of months ago, I came to you with an issue.
What was your name, sir?
What's that?
Oh, if
my
you could
name's
just state your
Clinton
name.
Jolly.
Okay, thank you.
Been a member of this community for over 25 years now. I came to you with a situation a couple of months ago. You said you would look into it, and I've not heard anything of it. The situation was this. There was a problem with the water. One of the water mains broke on the base that feeds the housing. There was a boil water issued. A lot of the people who were affected by that never got that warning. Not till a couple of days later, and then it was by word of mouth, not an official notification. Given the situation we have with water here, I thought that I would tell you about that, and because it is township water, I felt it was your responsibility to have the township find a way to make sure that as soon as that emergency occurs, the people affected by it are told. Has anything been done? If there has been something done, I would like to know what it was or have it published in a paper. And the people that ask me to speak for them in that regard would certainly like to know.
Okay.
Has anybody got anything? Have you done anything?
I believe that we asked some questions, but I don't think there's honestly been follow-up. So I will look into that.
I appreciate that because that's a serious situation. People's health and lives are at stake if they have water that's non-potable and can kill them. I think it needs to be looked at, and it needs to be looked at quickly and resolved.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else in that? All right. I'll let you two arm wrestle. Who wants to go first? Kathy won, sorry.
She always wins, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you knew I needed to come up for this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Kathy Woosterbarth. From what I understand, the board or the township was approached by Eagle for a wish list. That's great, right? That means that somebody might have some money. So fortunately, the Now Group has worked just vigorously for years. So we're ready for this question. And you might not be aware of what we're doing actually behind the scenes. So locally, the Now Group meets at least 2 times a month with local community members. We have at least 2 to 3 attorneys on each call, 2 to 3 nonprofits. We have congressionals. We have retired U.S. Air Force personnel. We have the retired program manager and site manager for our site. This is twice a month. We have a call specifically talking about strategy for what needs to happen at this site. And we also recognize, just again, that this site requires strategy. And remember, you're dealing with the Department of Defense. They look at us and they see a small community, and like Tim and Josh had mentioned, that we're a little fractured in this, right? We're not all together. We're not all talking the same talk. So this work session that you're talking about is going to be very important. And it's going to be important for the Now Group and some of our representatives to come to you and give you some of these strategies that we worked on. We have been working on this wish list and coming up with the numbers. So it's not good enough just to say what the project is or what you want to see happen, but you need to be able to give numbers. And fortunately, we have these retired staff that will be able to give us these. So we're going to be able to come to them, both Eagle and the DOD, and say exactly what we want worked on. And by the way, the RAB does that with their interim remedial actions and their remedial investigations. They come to the community and to us, agencies, and they provide us these plans and they ask for feedback. So that's what the RAB is there for. They have all those agencies like the DNR and the Forestry Service, DHHS, and those quarterly meetings, that's what happens. We talk about those remedial actions and what's going on. But again, I want to just remind you that this is a strategy, and the Department of Defense has had decades, really, to work on this site. And we've asked them to make this site an example of what all PFAS cleanup could be in all of the hundreds of other DOD sites. And they have not taken the opportunity to do this.
Thank you.
So they are taking advantage of us, and we need to be coalesced as a community so that we can be ready for this, I continue to believe we should be the poster child for what all other Department of Defense sites will need to do for their cleanup. So we're going to be happy to participate in this. I do think that you need to take the advantage of the opportunity that Mark Henry has given you to talk about the lagoon systems. This is something that specifically the township will need to address. And they have numbers, plans, all of the things that are impacted by this township lagoon system that needs to be part of this wish list. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yes. Unless Jeff was going to arm wrestle you over, I didn't know what was going to happen there. Okay.
Well, Robert Tazier, Hillcrest Drive. What a wonderful weekend we had in Oscoda this past weekend, starting out on Friday for at the Artisan Hall for the art selection process. I went to that, And I got to tell you, there was over 100 people that I counted. It was somewhere around 125 or so people there. What a great turnout that was. And I would like to state also along those lines that, art is subjective. Apparently, so are pedestals. So, and that's a joke. I don't, okay. After that event there at the Artisan Hall, art on the beach. Back on the beach. I went to that on Saturday. That was great. The parking lot was full, but I pulled right in, got a spot right away. There was people were making use of the parking in the north end lot over there, and with all of the people that were on that beach and all of the people that were going to all of that vending, I don't think parking is going to be a problem. It really was packed down there. It was a lot of fun. It was a beautiful sunny day, and the only complaint that I had was the cherry slushy machine was not keeping up. Okay, so that was the only downfall I could find. And then I did wear some of it on my shirt too. That was another. Okay, so then on Sunday, went around through town and I seen all the volunteers out there. Thank God Oscoda has the volunteers that we have. All the people that put all of this art, the art walk and all the energy and the committees working on this, they don't get paid for this stuff. And here they are all out there working, putting this art up. I seen Todd out there digging holes on Friday out there before the event. I mean, just everybody coming together and putting on something that all other communities do, and now Oscoda can say, check that box. Art walk, art displays. Art brings people to communities. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So a shout out to everybody that was involved in setting this up and doing all the volunteer work and the committees that are diligently putting their time in because they love their community. Thank you so much. Thank the Chamber of Commerce for putting that, the art on the beach, back out there on the beach. I really like it out there. It's just one of my things there, and all the volunteers that were working on that. And on another note, they were talking about all of the Air Force and the DOD and all of these things. One thing that about those lining those pipes that's sticking in my mind, that Mission Street pipe. Now I was on the RAB for the first, several years that it was there, and we talked about that back then, about them running all those water down that Mission Street drain pipe and all that. The thing that isn't being said right now is that Mission Street pipe is a 22-inch line that's putting millions of gallons of water through it. That other one is a 54-inch line. There's quite a difference. They should immediately have gone in there and lined that pipe. I mean, like that. Because there was a known problem there. They're putting millions of gallons of water down through there, and yet, that should have already been done. That's a no-brainer. And to compare those two lines, by the way, a 54-inch drain pipe, a lot more water that's designed to put out a lot more water than a 22-inch pipe. So keep that in mind when those needs assessments comes out and what you're going to be doing, the size of what those pipes are. And they're going to, the Air Force and the DOD will always try to get off cheap. Delay, delay, delay. That's their game. So good luck with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, anybody else for public comment? Oh, I already went through the middle section, huh? No, you have, okay, you only have one public comment, and I already went through the center section. Huh? Mr. Miller, I don't think it's appropriate for you to make a comment, I'm sorry. I think it is. Well, okay, please. No, you're out of order. Mr. Miller, you're out of order. Okay, Mr. Miller, you're out of order. Thank you. Oh, yep. Well, and thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Okay, so moving on to public comment is done. We are now on board comment. I'm just going to kind of go down the road or down the table. Mr. Comment, yeah.
Nothing
Anything?
from me, thank you.
Jeremy? Are you driving? You just
I'm
listening to the
good,
radio?
no.
You're good? Okay. Josh?
I would just like to say, For anybody who got to go out, like Bob was talking, the Artisan Hall for the art presentation was amazing. It was packed. I don't think I've seen that many people in that one block of downtown since the 90s. And people were spread out to those pedestals as well. And I just wanted to say thank you to the volunteers and everybody who put that on. That's an amazing opportunity to have here in town. I know I enjoyed it as well as lots of other people there, and look forward to future events.
Okay.
I would just echo Mr. Taser and Mr. Sutton's comments about the exhibit Friday night. Some of the artwork there was really spectacular. My wife and I think we're going to have to go back and purchase a couple. We're going to be doing some redecoratings with some of this art. But the idea that all these artists are local artists, I think is incredible, that we have that kind of talent right here. And it was well attended. And I think this art walk is in place. I think it'll be interesting for people coming to town to walk around and have a look at. So that was all. And I will say I was at the Art on the Beach on Saturday, selling tickets for the Lions Club. I did make a statement Friday at the reception for the art that I was going to be there from 2:30 to 5, and if people could come buy tickets at that time, because I am competitive with selling tickets with our other members of the Lions Club. And we did sell, we did raise a substantial amount of money for the Lions Club at our sales over the weekend, so that was successful. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
I just want to wish everybody a safe and wonderful July 4th holiday. Remember, we have a parade and fireworks on Monday,
Absolutely.
the 4th. So please come out and support.
Summer tax bills are ready, and they're printed. Happy 4th of July. So you can call and get your tax information now or go online to get that information. If you have any questions about it, please give our office a call, 989-739-3211, extension 230 or 231.
All right, thank you. I guess I just would say what Steve indicated, 4th of July is Monday. Our parade is 11 o'clock. Still would like some people to participate in regard to floats. Still time to get it in there. And then the parade, I think, or the after event starts at 5 at the beach. And a lot of people work very hard for that. Going back to the comments on the art, I did go to the Friday evening presentation and then saw a lot of the, which was an amazing turnout, very impressive. It was very, very well done. And to watch the artists receiving merit awards, all the awards were donated by local businesses. So all the local businesses, again, supported, the arts yet again in giving those prizes. But they were so ecstatic to be receiving, acknowledgement, number one, and just being nominated, because I think there was 40, I don't want to misquote, but I want to say like 45 or 44, and not everybody won something.
Right.
But it was nice to see them, them honored, and then, then the larger ones were given a little bit more money, but it was a very good turnout. And then Art on the Beach, again, a nice amount of vendors there. So, as Bob mentioned, art is subjective. I mean, it's just not everybody understands a community investing in that component, but it is a form of tourism like anything else is. And there are people that tour lighthouses, that want to go to specific lighthouses. In fact, when the township was looking, when the DDA was looking to get that, the lighthouse, it was more of a channel marker. But when we placed that, I mean, I had this lady calling me for a year and a half wanting to know when it was going to be placed, because it was on her list to make it to every one of the lighthouses, and that was at one time a channel marker in the Oscoda River. So even though it's not important to some, it's extremely important to others, and it's good that we diversify ourselves and appeal to other people to come here and hopefully buy a house and live here year round or part-time. We enjoy everybody. So again, thanks for all that. It was a lot of volunteer hours there, again, that are not compensated by any dollar amount. They're compensated because their efforts are finally coming to fruition. And somebody, and I will say this person, from Truly Yours, Sharon Ostrander, has been a leader in regard to the arts in our community and trying to push it with the center, the Sandy Shelton Center for the Arts, and promoting her artwork and everything. If it wasn't for Sharon pushing for so many years, thank goodness that we now have the EIC that is recognizing it and expanding on it. And we as a township board are supporting that as well. So thanks to everybody. So with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, it is 9:51. How did that happen? Sorry, 9:51.